After being reborn, I deliberately passed up every chance to ride with my crush. I kept reminding myself I was just the driver's son. But when Chloe saw the empty seat beside her, she called the driver Uncle for the first time. "Uncle Daniel, you're leaving already?" Daniel was stunned. "Miss Whitmore, did you need something?" Chloe felt strangely irritated. "Aren't we waiting for Ethan today?" "Ethan just texted me. He has plans with classmates and said he'll take the bus home later." Chloe's face fell. Things had changed after her rebirth. What could Ethan possibly be doing? He never used to miss a chance to ride with her. In their last life, he always worried about keeping her waiting. He'd be waiting obediently in the car. Still, this was for the best. In their last life, she dated Ethan for 5 years, and Adrian never got over it. This time, she had to keep her distance from Ethan. That day, it took me over 2 hours to walk back to Whitmore Estate. I crossed the grounds and entered the Whitmore staff house. Chloe spotted me from the second-floor balcony of Whitmore Manor. Her eyes followed me before she called my name. I had earbuds in and didn't hear her, so I kept walking straight into the staff house. Chloe headed toward the staff house with a cold expression. As I tried to close my door, she blocked it. "Ethan, didn't you hear me calling you?" Her behavior annoyed me. "I had earbuds in. I didn't hear you. What did you need?" Only then did Chloe remember she'd been reborn. Right now, we'd only just met and barely knew each other. "Why didn't you ride with Uncle Daniel after class?" My tone turned distant. "Are you kidding? You're the employer. My dad's the driver. Someone like me has no place riding with you. I overstepped before. It won't happen again. Please don't blame my dad, Miss Whitmore." Chloe's face instantly hardened. "Good. At least you know your place. If Grandpa asks about you, you can explain it yourself. Don't say I kicked you out of the car." With that, she slammed the door and left. I remained unfazed. I would never repeat my past mistakes. I'd already applied for campus housing, but I'd have to wait a few days for a spot. The next morning, I got up early and waited for the bus. Chloe had just woken up when she saw me leave for school. She stared darkly at my back. "Don't think this will get my attention." A few minutes later, the bus arrived. It was packed, so I squeezed toward the back. I'd barely found a place to stand when someone pressed against me from behind. I turned and saw a middle-aged man. He stood behind me and gave me a faint smile. I tried to move, but he refused to budge and kept pressing against me. Just then, a stunning girl appeared out of nowhere. She pushed through the crowd carrying a cactus. She said, "Excuse me," while clearing a path with its spikes. She soon reached the man. He moved too slowly and got pricked. "Are you crazy? Who brings a cactus on a bus? Watch where you're going." The girl took his spot and gave a half-hearted apology. "Sorry, won't happen again. Thanks for understanding." The man shot me a bitter look, then moved away. I looked at the girl. She happened to be looking down at me. Her sharp gaze made me feel like an idiot. After a few seconds, I had to ask, "Are you making fun of me?" She paused. "Be careful on this bus. There are a lot of creeps like him. I've seen it happen several times." Finally hit me. She'd been helping me. "Thanks for helping me. I'm Ethan Hayes. I'm studying playwriting at Ashford." "You?" "Avery Sinclair, agriculture major at Briarwood." The bus arrived as we spoke. Our schools were only 2 blocks apart. After getting off, I wanted to thank her again, but Avery's long strides quickly carried her across to campus. I headed to class and didn't think much of it. This year's freshman welcome show was especially packed. Chloe was the headliner. Everyone wanted to see Port Sterling's famous Whitmore Heiress. I was the only one who didn't care. I didn't want to see Chloe, but Mason insisted on dragging me along. "You only get one freshman welcome show. We worked hard to get here. College won't feel complete if we skip it." Mason dragged me straight to the 3rd row. A student from the Ashford campus events office was moving snacks. He was swamped and happened to spot me. He asked me to carry a box of bread backstage. It was for the performers who hadn't had time to eat. I took the box and made my way backstage. A lot of upperclassmen were waiting to perform. I set the bread on a table by the door. Without thinking, I glanced toward the dressing room. In my last life, I'd come backstage on purpose to get Chloe the berry bread she liked. She was allergic to peanuts, and many of the breads contained nuts. I worried she'd grab the wrong one and ruin her performance. This time, I couldn't care less. She was old enough to read the word nuts. For some reason, Chloe kept waiting in the dressing room. Then someone knocked. Brooke started to get up, but Chloe beat her to the door. She opened it quickly and said coldly, "I'm not eating." But she stopped mid-sentence. "Who are you looking for?" The guy outside flinched at her expression. "Miss Whitmore, I heard you're performing tonight." Chloe scowled and slammed the door. She returned to the couch, radiating pure ice. Brooke scratched her head. "Chloe, don't you like Nathan Pierce?" Chloe froze for a second. I didn't see his face. "Then who did you think it was?" Chloe didn't answer. She was too irritated. Why wasn't Ethan here yet? In their last life, he'd arrived by now. Unable to wait any longer, Chloe finally stepped outside. But the bread was already being handed out. Brooke returned with some. Eat something to hold you over. There's no time to go out now. We'll eat after the show. Chloe took the bread and looked at it. When she saw it was nut-flavored, her face darkened further. Chloe didn't spot me until she took the stage. The guys below erupted in cheers. I was looking down at my phone. I even put in my earbuds, probably because it was too loud. Chloe finished singing First Love, and the crowd went wild. People rushed on stage with flowers. Chloe had several bouquets, but she didn't leave the stage. For some reason, she kept looking my way. Mason returned to the third row with 2 bouquets. He shoved one into my arms. Ethan, I'm giving Chloe flowers. Wanna come? I handed it back. Give Chloe flowers? What a joke. I'd rather give them to a dog. Then I glanced at the stage and remembered. Brooke had helped me a lot in my last life. Fine, let's go together. On stage, Chloe remembered refusing my flowers before. This time, she'd accept them. She knew I truly loved her. She didn't love me, but she did care a little. Chloe stared as I walked on stage with the bouquet. Without even realizing it, when I reached her, she freed one hand and reached for my flowers. But I walked right past her and offered them to Brooke. I smiled. Your performance was amazing. These are for you. Is that okay? Brooke froze, then accepted the bouquet. Of course. Thank you. I left the stage without giving Chloe a single glance. Brooke met Chloe's gaze, looking confused. Chloe snapped toward her. What's going on between you and Ethan? Brooke was speechless. Nothing. I barely know him. Chloe, maybe he's doing this to get your attention. Please. He's nobody. Why would I notice him? It was already 10 when I returned to Whitmore Estate. Dad came over as soon as he saw me. Ethan, did you see Miss Whitmore at school today? She didn't ask me to pick her up, and she's still not back. Her phone's off too. Mrs. Whitmore is looking everywhere. I opened the Ashford Freshman Network. Tell her not to worry. They probably went to karaoke. Okay, I'll tell her now so she doesn't come question you. In one of the group photos, I saw a handsome guy sitting beside Chloe. It was Adrian Cole. They'd ended up together after all. Chloe staying out all night had infuriated Victoria. To avoid being questioned, I left early. I spotted Avery as soon as I boarded the bus. Today, she was holding a crystal-like succulent. Worried that Creep might return, I went straight to Avery and greeted her. She quietly made room and shielded me from the aisle. Grateful for her thoughtfulness, I started a conversation. Avery, what's that plant? It's beautiful. I stared at it but didn't touch it. It looked like a gift I'd received at graduation in my last life. It's a neon light Haworthia. Do you like it? I nodded. I do. It looks like crystal. Before I finished, Avery pushed it toward me. Take it. It's yours. I took it in surprise. You're really giving it to me? Avery remained expressionless. You like it, don't you? Keep it. I have plenty at home. Then I remembered she studied agriculture. She was probably good at growing plants. Last time she'd had a cactus. Besides, one little succulent couldn't cost much. I happily accepted it. Thanks, Avery. Bubble tea's on me next time. Avery gave me a long look, then pulled out her phone. Then don't back out. Let's add each other first. I took out my phone and added her. Deal. I won't back out. The bus soon arrived. This time, Avery didn't leave right away. She stopped to say goodbye, which surprised me. After waving goodbye, I carried the plant to class. Mason rushed in at the last second and sat beside me. He looked excited. I stayed up reading gossip last night. They say the Whitmore heiress is dating Harbor Tech's heartthrob. Of course, I knew he meant Adrian. Adrian had planned to study abroad, but his father's scandal stopped him. He had to settle for Harbor Tech, and the semester had just started. His family was in trouble, so he wanted to hold on to a rich heiress like Chloe. Chloe had fought her family and stayed here for Adrian. They were a perfect match. They were probably all over each other at his apartment. Mason was baffled by my calm reaction. Ethan, aren't you shocked? Chloe Whitmore is dating someone. What does the heiress's love life have to do with me? I'd rather spend that time working another job. Mason nodded. True. She can date whoever she wants. A moment later, Mason asked, Ethan, is that neon light yours? Dude, you keep telling me you're broke, but you brought a 4-figure plant to class. I was stunned. You're kidding, right? How could this tiny succulent cost that much? Mason studied it for a minute. No way. It's worth more. At least 5 figures. I searched online and found that it really was expensive. Avery must have put a lot of work into growing one this perfect. I opened Avery's orbit profile. I took a picture of the Haworthia and sent it. When are you done today? I'll bring the plant back. Avery replied with a question mark. Didn't you like it? It's yours. Why return it? It's too expensive and I'm afraid I'll kill it. You should take it back. After a long pause, Avery replied, no. Then she forwarded me a neon light Haworthia care guide. Follow this. Ask me if you need help. I put down my phone and looked at the plant differently. But Mason wasn't done. He stared at the Haworthia. and blurted, "Damn, Ethan. Why does that pot look like agate?" I clutched my chest. "Stop. I don't want to know." I had no afternoon classes and carried it like treasure. All the way back to my room. My stepmother, Linda, called through the window next door. "Ethan, Mrs. Whitmore wants to see you." Just hearing Victoria's name irritated me. During the 5 years I dated Chloe before, Victoria always harassed me when Chloe wasn't around. My dorm wouldn't be ready for another week, so I had to stay here until then. I approached Victoria politely. "What can I do for you, Mrs. Whitmore? If I can help, I will." Chloe skipped class again. Her advisor called today and said she hasn't attended in 2 days. The semester just started. Victoria sounded devastated, but I felt nothing. I knew her advisor would never call Victoria about Chloe skipping class. Who would dare challenge the Whitmore heiress or police her attendance? "Ethan, don't you attend the same school as Chloe? You share some classes. Could you keep an eye on her? Text me whenever she skips. Here, let's add each other." I knew Victoria wasn't really angry about the missed classes. She was angry because Chloe skipped them to see Adrian. The same thing happened before, but I liked Chloe then. I warned her so she'd show up to class first. Once I sent Victoria a photo, she'd leave. When Victoria found out, she took it out on me. This time, I wouldn't help Chloe. I was about to refuse when Linda patted my back. "It's just a picture of Miss Whitmore. That's easy." "Don't worry, Mrs. Whitmore. Ethan can do it." She scanned Victoria's Orbit account with her own, then sent me Victoria's profile. I followed Linda out, scowling. "I'm not taking pictures. You agreed, so do it yourself." I returned to my room. I understood Victoria's plan. I'd been trying hard to get close to Chloe, so Victoria had naturally noticed. Chloe hated being watched, so Victoria wanted me to secretly photograph her. It would make Chloe hate me and keep her away from Adrian. Chloe finally returned after 10 that night. She immediately started arguing with Victoria. After nearly an hour, Chloe stormed out of the manor. She went straight to the gazebo facing my window. In my last life, I often watched Chloe through that window. Chloe stared at it coldly and began counting. By 20, the driver's son always came out to her. He'd bring food, an umbrella, or simply check on her. But with a soft thud, the window suddenly closed. Then the curtains were drawn. Chloe froze in disbelief. She walked over and knocked on the window. I hadn't expected Chloe to knock. I waited a few seconds before stepping outside. "Did you need me, Miss Whitmore?" Chloe gave me a complicated look. "Why did you close the window?" "For privacy, obviously. I don't want people looking inside." Chloe's expression hardened. I wasn't acting like I had before, but she assumed it was just another trick to get her attention. "Fine. Keep it closed from now on. Don't open it." I glared at her back. What an annoying, hot-headed heiress. Chloe suddenly stopped and turned around. "My mom asked you to take pictures of me in class, didn't she?" I froze. "How did you know?" "Relax. I won't secretly photograph you. I never have and I never will." Chloe scoffed, and her gaze turned strangely unreadable. After a few seconds, she said, "Go ahead. If she wants pictures, take them. I won't skip class anyway." She turned to leave, remembering their last life. Victoria had berated me for covering for her. This time, she didn't want that to happen again. But I suddenly called out, "Wait." Chloe stopped, looking like she'd expected this. He still liked her after all. She asked haughtily, "What?" Then she saw my phone aimed at her. "Miss Whitmore, you said I could take pictures, right? Please say it again so no one can blame me later." Chloe snapped. "I said you can. Take all you want. Happy?" She stormed off. I saved the video and slept easy. I never imagined Chloe was too angry to sleep all night. Chloe had an early class the next day. After getting in, she instinctively looked to her left. I still wasn't there waiting for her like before. Before long, the car passed me walking down the road. Chloe's eyes settled on the milk in my hand. I'd always liked milk in the morning. Every morning, I'd warm 2 bottles in water and drink them in the car. Chloe hadn't had that milk in a long time. After staring for 2 seconds, she said, "Stop." Then she told me, "Get in." I shook my head. "Thanks, Miss Whitmore, but I'll take the bus." Chloe had reached out first, yet I turned her down. She scoffed. "Suit yourself." The car sped off and I caught my bus on time. Sure enough, Avery was aboard. I walked over, pleasantly surprised. "Morning, Avery." Avery quickly put away her phone. If I'd looked closer, I would have seen. She'd been scrolling through my Orbit feed. I offered her a bottle of warm milk. "This one's for you." Avery and I had shared the bus several times, so we'd gotten more comfortable around each other. She showed me her beautiful garden on her phone. After we got off, she said, "I'll show you my garden sometime. There's even a little fish pond." As we talked, Avery suddenly stopped. I sensed something too. I looked up and saw Chloe with 2 friends nearby. She was glaring at the milk in Avery's hand. One of her friends teased, "Chloe, isn't that your driver's son? Didn't he always follow you around? When did he switch girls?" The words switch girls struck a nerve. She never imagined I'd been reborn too. Chloe eyed Avery's milk, then sneered at me. So that's why you stopped mooching rides from me. You found another girl, so now I'm not good enough? My face fell. Miss Whitmore, what are you talking about? What? Am I wrong? When you first came to our house, didn't you wait in the car for me every morning? You used to bring me that milk too. Why give it to someone else now? Remembering my old self made me cringe. I truly regretted ever liking Chloe. What had gotten into her today? Chloe looked Avery over again. You probably don't know. He's my driver's son. I was mortified. I'm sorry, Avery. Avery reached over and ruffled my hair. Don't apologize. You did nothing wrong. I knew how nasty Chloe could be, but I didn't want Avery dragged into this. You should get to class. Don't be late. Who is she? I paused. She's crazy. Avery paused, then hesitantly asked, is she your girlfriend? Of course not. Seeing me rush to deny it, Chloe scoffed. As if I'd ever date a driver's son. I was furious. Right? A driver's son wasn't good enough for her. Then who dated me for 5 years? A ghost. I never asked you to. What's wrong with you? Get help if you're sick in the head. Across both lives. This was the first time I'd ever cursed Chloe out. She froze and stared at me. Chloe fell silent. So did Avery. I looked embarrassed. Bye, Avery. I'm heading to class. You should go too. Without waiting for her reply, I ran through the campus gates. I was afraid to look at Avery. I feared I'd see surprise and contempt in her eyes. When I dated Chloe in my last life, I'd had enough of those looks. Chloe stood there, stone-faced, glaring resentfully at Avery, whose face had also darkened. Avery watched my back disappear, milk in hand, then turned and left. I had a general class that morning. After sitting down, I opened my chat with Avery. I wanted to apologize. I typed and deleted for ages, but sent nothing. Nothing felt right. Just as I was about to lock my phone, Avery messaged me. What's wrong? Only then did I realize. I'd been typing for almost 10 minutes without sending a word. She'd probably seen the typing indicator the whole time. My face burned. Avery, I'm sorry about what happened. I hope you won't take it to heart. I told you it wasn't your fault. You don't need to apologize. My eyes stung. Compared to Chloe, Avery was unbelievably kind. Chloe had spoken about me like that in front of Avery. I didn't know if Avery had gotten the wrong idea. What if she thought I flirted with every girl I met? As I wondered, someone passed by and bumped my desk. I looked up and saw Chloe walk past with a cold expression. She took a seat in the back. Chloe actually came to class. Wasn't she going to see Adrian? She'd meant what she said last night. After a brief pause, I grabbed my phone and took a picture of her. Then I quickly sent it to Victoria. She'd allowed me to send Victoria proof, so I did. Anything to avoid more trouble. As soon as Chloe sat down, Paige told her, Ethan just took your picture. Chloe's expression finally softened. I know, I'm not blind. For the next 2 days, whenever Chloe and I shared a class, I'd snap a quick picture to satisfy Victoria. Soon, rumors spread that I liked Chloe, and secretly photographed her on Campus Buzz. Mason scrolled through the posts and showed me. They say you like Chloe, that you chase and stalk her. You photograph her in and after class. You even cross campus to secretly photograph her in other classrooms. I was speechless. No wonder people had kept staring at me. So this was why. It wasn't nearly that dramatic. Someone was twisting it to smear me. It was all a misunderstanding. The heiress kept skipping class, so Victoria asked me to watch her. I had to send her daily proof that Chloe attended. Mason looked stunned. That's a terrifying mom. No wonder Miss Whitmore rebels. Ethan, are you really not going to explain? Everyone's got it wrong. And they're saying awful things. I shook my head. I knew the rumors wouldn't last. In 2 weeks, Adrian would leave the country over his family crisis. Then Chloe couldn't skip class to see him. Once Victoria relaxed, I wouldn't need to take pictures every day. At lunch, I had the bad luck of running into Chloe again. I felt cursed. In my last life, I'd worked hard to stage chance encounters. Now that I wanted nothing to do with her, she was everywhere. You've been photographing me for 2 days. Aren't you going to report back? Chloe paused and gave me a meaningful look. Did you save my pictures to your gallery? I gave her a disgusted look. You kept skipping, so Victoria made me document your attendance. Now you're attending every day, and she's happy. What is there to report? Relax. I didn't save a single picture. Chloe's eyes flickered with apparent disappointment. You took that many and saved none? Why would I? To ward off evil? Chloe laughed in disbelief. I don't believe you. Ethan, do you like me but won't admit it? At this point in my last life, I had liked Chloe. But now I knew I didn't. I opened my chat with Victoria. If you don't believe me, see for yourself. Chloe snatched my phone and saw. The chat was full of pictures of her in and after class. Every shot was a blurry back or profile. Not one showed her full face. Chloe's face instantly darkened. Unbelievable. You spy on me for her, but won't even photograph my face? Do you hate seeing me that much? I stayed expressionless. Your face isn't worth photographing. Chloe nodded with a cold laugh. Then whose face is worth it? Avery Sinclair's? Why are you dragging Avery into this? Avery? That sounds awfully close. I'm older too. Why don't you call me that? What exactly is your relationship with her? I reached for my phone. Whatever it is, it's none of your business. Chloe's face darkened, and she hurled my phone to the ground. The screen shattered. I quickly picked it up. Chloe, are you insane? You broke the screen, so you're paying for it. I'll send you the bill. I hope Miss Whitmore won't dodge it. I walked away. I couldn't stand another second with her. Chloe stomped her foot in anger. Damn it. She'd been secretly pleased when she learned I photographed her. She thought I had a crush, so she let me. She assumed I'd secretly stare at the pictures later. Instead, she'd only infuriated herself. I headed back through Market Row, unaware that Avery was having lunch there with classmates. Avery spotted me first but didn't call out. She'd spent hours at the agriculture school that morning, and her clothes were splattered with mud. She didn't want to ruin her image in front of me. Besides, I looked upset. Once I disappeared into the crowd, Avery noticed her classmates staring after me too. That's the guy you mentioned, right? He looks so innocent. Hard to believe he's a stalker. Avery couldn't help asking, what are you talking about? What stalker? Have you heard of Chloe Whitmore, Ashford's campus celebrity? Her driver's son supposedly has a crush on her. He goes there too. He's been secretly photographing her every day. Her classmate opened a post. Look, the Whitmore heiress has only been enrolled 2 weeks, and an obsessed admirer is already photographing her. This is the guy. The post clearly showed me photographing Chloe from behind. Avery remembered what Chloe had said that morning. Did Ethan really like Chloe? She frowned. Either way, these posts hurt Ethan. She should have them removed. When I returned to campus, I also saw the post accusing me of secretly photographing Chloe. But it was deleted soon after. Every related post about me vanished too. Mason was stunned. Is this the Whitmore's power? They can scrub the whole internet? I stared at my phone, doubtful Chloe had done it. But if not Chloe, then who? On the third day, I reached class just as Chloe hurried downstairs. It's Adrian's birthday. I'm buying him a gift. Cover for me today. I'll attend class tomorrow. She spoke as if helping her was my duty. I raised my phone and snapped her picture. Then I said coldly, done. You can go. I opened Orbit, ready to send Victoria proof she was skipping. Chloe suddenly snatched my phone. Why are you being so unreasonable? I told you it's Adrian's birthday. I'll be home by 8. Is covering for me that hard? I sneered. Yes, Victoria isn't easy to fool. I'd learned the cost of deceiving her in my last life. Chloe's eyes gleamed knowingly. And you say you don't like me. When I mentioned Adrian's birthday, you looked jealous. Being delusional is an illness, princess. Get help. Furious, Chloe walked off with my phone. I'll be back at 8. Get it from me then. I'll explain everything to my mother. I angrily chased after her. Chloe jumped into her car and sped away. I was trapped between Victoria and Chloe. I decided Dad had to quit. I take more part-time jobs to earn money. Without my phone, I couldn't contact Victoria. I'd have to explain when I got back. I also couldn't pay for the bus or buy anything. I'd have to ask Mason to unlock a rental bike for me. I figured Avery hadn't seen me in 3 days, so she probably wouldn't message. Meanwhile, Avery arrived at the bus stop right on schedule. After 10 minutes, she boarded the bus I might take. At my usual stop, she straightened and watched the front door. But the doors closed without me boarding. Disappointment filled Avery's eyes. Since we'd run into Chloe after getting off the bus, I hadn't ridden it again. Was I avoiding her? Or was I distancing myself because of Chloe? After a while, she opened my Orbit chat and messaged, how's the neon light Haworthia? Give it some sun, but never direct sunlight. After sending the harmless message, she nervously waited for a reply. But the entire morning passed with no response. By evening, I still hadn't replied. After worrying all day, Avery sent another message. You didn't kill it, did you? This time, a reply came quickly. Don't message Ethan again. Avery's face darkened. She sent a question mark. A red exclamation mark appeared. Ethan had blocked her. No, someone else had used his phone to block her. Who? Chloe? Did Ethan really like her? Were they together right now? After saying goodbye to Mason, I rode a rental bike home alone. While I waited at an intersection, Avery spotted me from a bus. She could hardly believe it. Was I biking to school just to avoid her? As I pedaled slowly, someone called my name from the roadside. It was a woman's cool, low voice, tinged with resentment. A hand grabbed my handlebar, forcing me to stop. I looked up and met Avery's eyes. Her expression was complicated. Have you been biking to school lately? So far. How long are you going to keep this up? She wanted to know if I feared upsetting Chloe, and biked home to avoid seeing her on the bus. If so, Avery would stop taking it. I still didn't know she'd been blocked on my Orbit account. Avery, what are you doing here? Avery answered guiltily. Just passing by. What a coincidence. I walked beside Avery, pushing the bike, and told her honestly, Chloe took my phone this morning. Without it, I can't pay the bus fare. So a classmate unlocked this bike, and I'm riding home. Avery had worried all day, never expecting that answer. Your phone is with Chloe? I nodded. She kept skipping. So Victoria asked me to watch her. She got angry when she found out. So she took my phone to keep me from contacting Victoria. So that's what happened. Avery felt secretly relieved. Good thing she'd gotten off the bus to ask me directly. Raindrops began to fall. Avery looked up. It's raining. Don't ride. Let's find shelter. Have you had dinner? I nodded obediently. Yes. So Avery tried another question. What about bubble tea? The question seemed odd. Not today. Then come on. Bubble tea's on me. The rain picked up, sending everyone running. Avery pulled me toward a mall packed with people seeking shelter. She tugged my sleeve and squeezed us inside. At the bubble tea shop, the mood felt strange. We silently watched the rain. We'd only met a few times, so I didn't know what to say, and I couldn't tell what Avery was thinking. As Avery sheltered with me at the mall, I had no idea. Chloe was miserable while celebrating Adrian's birthday. Adrian knew Chloe had always liked him, but he'd kept her waiting and never agreed to date her. Recently, though, he'd begun to feel threatened. He realized Chloe cared more about the driver's son than he'd thought. So on his birthday, Adrian made their relationship official. But when Chloe heard him say it, she didn't look happy at all. She frowned at the heavy rain outside. She pulled a phone with a cracked screen from her pocket. Adrian eyed the phone in Chloe's hand, instantly alarmed. Chloe, whose phone is that? Chloe was already on edge. Ethan, your driver's son? Why do you have his phone? Chloe checked the phone. It was already 8:40. That morning, she'd wanted to stop Ethan from tipping off Victoria, so she'd taken his phone before skipping class to spend the day with Adrian. It was late and raining. She had no idea how Ethan was doing. Chloe grew restless. She wanted to stay with Adrian, but she had to go home. Finally, she said, Come home with me. Stay at my place tonight. I'll drive you to school tomorrow. Adrian paused. He'd only visited Whitmore Estate as a child. He hadn't been back since. Chloe must be serious about making their relationship official. By the time they returned, it was already 9:30. The first thing Chloe said to Arthur was, Tell Ethan to come see me. Miss Whitmore, Ethan isn't back yet. He still hasn't returned. Chloe immediately got angry. She had my phone and had promised to be back by 8. So she'd rushed back from the hotel with Adrian. Yet I wasn't even home. Arthur quickly explained, Miss Whitmore, it's late and pouring. Ethan may not have an umbrella. I'll call and ask where he is, then have Daniel pick him up. As soon as Arthur dialed, my phone rang in Chloe's pocket. She irritably turned it off. Leave him alone. If he doesn't have an umbrella, can't he buy one? Then she remembered I couldn't buy one without my phone. Fine, I'll pick him up at school. Arthur quickly stopped her. Miss Whitmore, you shouldn't go. Mrs. Whitmore is still waiting for you. Victoria had been angry all day. She couldn't reach Chloe or me. Now Chloe had brought Adrian home. She was beside herself. Arthur turned to Adrian. Mr. Cole, I've prepared a guest room for you. Why don't you get some rest? Adrian looked at Chloe, visibly hurt. Chloe, can I stay in your room? Arthur found that inappropriate. Victoria was already furious. This would only make it worse. But Chloe ignored Arthur's warning look. Sorry, Adrian. I can't stay with you right now. Go rest in my room. I need to see my mom. Meanwhile, Avery and I sat in a cafe. Avery suggested, the rain won't stop anytime soon. Instead of waiting here, let's catch a movie upstairs. It felt like we weren't close enough to see a movie together. Avery, you really don't have to stay with me. I can wait here until the rain stops. Did you forget what happened with that creep on the bus? It's late, you're alone, and you have no phone. That's not safe. Are you really planning to bike home? Avery stared at me sternly. Under her gaze, I instinctively shook my head. Avery stood up. Come on, let's see a movie. How about that popular animated one? It all felt a little strange. Before I could answer, Avery looked down at her phone. It starts in 20 minutes. Tickets are still available. Want popcorn? No, let's skip it. My brain couldn't keep up with Avery. 1 second, she was asking if I wanted to go. The next, she'd already bought the tickets. Okay, no popcorn. Let's head upstairs. Unsure what to say, I obediently followed Avery. Seeing me like that made Avery's heart flutter. She knew she was being a little devious. I was exactly her type. The moment she'd seen me on the bus, she'd felt a spark. She'd planned to take things slow. But plans changed. Now she wanted to speed things up. The movie ended close to 11. The rain outside had eased. Avery said apologetically, Sorry, I didn't realize the movie would let out this late. Won't your family worry? I shook my head. I called Dad on your phone. He won't worry. The movie was great. It made me forget the Whitmores for a while. But now I had to face Victoria's anger. Avery took out her phone. You're going back to Whitmore Estate? Give me the address. I'll get a ride and take you home. I didn't reach Whitmore Estate until 11:30. I got out, thanked Avery and said goodbye. I felt guilty. Avery was truly too kind. I watched the car leave, then turned toward the estate. I just entered the gate when a shadow by the entrance startled me. I tensed up. I turned and saw Chloe at the gate, glaring darkly at me. Miss Whitmore, what are you doing here? Chloe's voice was ice cold. I said I'd be back at 8. Why are you so late? Chloe had been acting strangely toward me lately. Miss Whitmore, this is personal. I don't need to report it to you. Can I have my phone back? The annoyance in my eyes hurt Chloe. She took out my phone but didn't return it. Instead, she glared at me and asked, whose hat are you wearing? I froze, then realized I was still wearing Avery's hat. Oh this? It rained tonight, and without my phone, I couldn't buy an umbrella. A kind upperclassman lent me her hat. I stepped forward and snatched my phone back. Chloe thought of the girl who rode the bus with me. Just a kind upperclassman? She casually gave you a hat worth thousands. How kind? I froze. Seriously? A hat costs thousands? Chloe gave a mocking laugh. So that's why you stopped riding with me. You found someone better to suck up to. Think whatever you want. If mocking me makes you feel better, I'll consider it my good deed for the day. Chloe felt even worse. I'd always been so soft-spoken. When had I become like this? She'd brought Adrian home and already fought with Victoria. She'd stormed out after the fight, only to find I still wasn't back. She couldn't reach me and even forgot about Adrian resting in her room. She'd waited at the manor gate, only to get this response. As I walked in, I saw Adrian by the garden entrance. He seemed to be waiting for someone and jogged over to Chloe. Chloe, I heard you arguing with your mom. I also heard her say she'd kick me out. You were gone so long. I got scared by myself. Why don't you take me home? I don't want to stay here. Your mom seems really upset. I watched coldly. Chloe had actually brought Adrian home. Was Victoria going to have a heart attack tonight? Chloe hugged Adrian and comforted him. Adrian, you don't have to leave. I brought you here. She has no right to kick you out. Come back inside. If she says anything else, I'll call Grandpa. Only then did Adrian relax. I looked at Chloe, completely blinded by love, and wondered if she'd lost her mind. I turned and went back to my room. I opened Orbit to find Avery, but she was gone. Then I received a friend request. It was Avery adding me again. I frowned. When had I deleted Avery? Was this Chloe's doing? I accepted and sent her a message. Avery, are you home yet? Avery replied quickly. Got your phone back at last? I'm home. Thanks for checking. After hesitating, I sent Avery $200. Thank you so much for today. This is for the movie and the ride. Please take it. Avery declined the transfer. You don't need to pay me back. Just take me to dinner or a movie next time. Is that okay? Of course. I'll buy you dinner tomorrow. Satisfied with my answer, Avery smiled to herself. Deal. The next morning, the real drama at the Whitmores began. Victoria got up early and summoned Arthur. What happened last night? Adrian didn't leave? They spent the night together? Arthur reluctantly nodded. Miss Whitmore wouldn't let us send Mr. Cole away. Victoria's face turned livid. Chloe can date, but she cannot get pregnant. Adrian's father may be going to prison. Marrying into that family would be a disaster. My grandchild can't have an ex-con for a grandfather. Victoria thought for a long moment, then looked up. Asked the family doctor for some medication. As I left my room, I overheard several maids whispering. Mrs. Whitmore seems in a good mood today. I thought she'd be furious when she saw Mr. Cole come downstairs. But they're actually having breakfast together. A complicated feeling crossed my eyes. In our last life, Chloe hadn't brought Adrian home. They never made things official before he left the country. Soon after, Chloe and I got together. The first time I came to Whitmore Estate after we started dating, Victoria was very polite. She even asked me to stay for dinner. I thought she'd truly accepted me. Instead, Victoria drugged me and damaged my health. Chloe later learned the truth. But she only said she couldn't defy her mother. One sentence and the whole thing was brushed aside. This time, Adrian was the one being drugged. I wondered what Chloe would do. I snapped out of my thoughts and was about to leave when Arthur stopped me. Ethan, Mrs. Whitmore wants to speak with you. Come with me. I followed Arthur to the front room. Victoria was having breakfast with Adrian and Chloe. Victoria looked warmly at Adrian. I never disliked you. Chloe's just still young. I worried dating would distract her from school. Victoria's sudden change stunned Adrian. I understand, Mrs. Whitmore. I'll make sure Chloe studies hard. Though they shared a bed last night, Chloe hadn't let Adrian touch her. Victoria pushed a bowl of bird's nest porridge toward Adrian. Her eyes were full of affection. Have some porridge. You're too thin. Adrian smiled, accepted it, and obediently began eating. Chloe sat beside him, frowning. Adrian was right there. Her mother had accepted him too, yet she still felt restless. Then I walked in. Chloe immediately straightened when she saw me. I ignored her and asked politely, "Mrs. Whitmore, did you need me?" Victoria smiled. "I heard what happened yesterday. Chloe took your phone to stop you from taking more pictures. She didn't want you monitoring her attendance, right?" I nodded calmly. Chloe frowned in annoyance. "Mom, are you still making him spy on me?" Victoria shook her head. "Of course not. I just wanted to say you can't bully Ethan like that. Why take his phone? It's so inconvenient without one." Victoria took out a new phone. "I saw that your screen was cracked, so I bought you a new one. It's also a thank you for watching Chloe these past few days. Starting today, you don't need to. Adrian will watch her." After finishing the porridge, Adrian smiled sweetly. "Don't worry, Mrs. Whitmore. I'll make sure she studies hard." I sneered inwardly but said politely, "Thank you, Mrs. Whitmore. I'll head to school now." Chloe immediately stood up. She moved hastily. "It's getting late. I need to go too." Adrian stood as well, but then clutched his stomach. His face turned pale. "Chloe, my stomach hurts. Don't panic. I'll take you to the hospital. Driver, get us there now." The driver saw Adrian's condition in the mirror. He couldn't help asking, "Mr. Cole, did you eat something bad?" No sooner had he asked than Adrian panicked. "No, I only had a bowl of bird's nest porridge." He stared at Chloe in shock. Chloe's face darkened as she remembered something from their last life. She remembered once bringing me to Whitmore Estate for dinner with Victoria. I developed severe stomach pain too. They ran every test. 3 days later, they found a drug overdose in my system. Chloe and I had a huge fight. She thought I'd taken it myself. I suspected Victoria, but Chloe didn't believe me. Now, as Chloe watched Adrian's symptoms, they were identical to mine in her memory. Adrian said weakly, "Chloe, could there have been something in that porridge?" Chloe suddenly shouted, "Stop the car! Take Adrian to the hospital. I'll meet you there." She hurried back into Whitmore Estate. Victoria was telling the maids to clear the table. Chloe glared at a maid. "Wait, leave Adrian's bowl." Victoria stared in surprise. Chloe looked terrifying. "Tell me, did you put drugs in Adrian's porridge?" "Chloe, love has made you completely irrational. Adrian gets a stomachache, and you accuse me of drugging him? I'm your own mother. How can you question me?" "Yes." Victoria had used the same words to dismiss Chloe before. Back then, Chloe had sided with Victoria. But now, regret and guilt overwhelmed her reason. She and I had been together for 5 years without a pregnancy. Victoria had said she'd overlook my background and let me marry into the family, but only if we had a child. Chloe's chest heaved with anger. "Right? You're my own mother. You'd never do something like this. Today you said you'd accept me and Adrian. You'd even let us get married someday. But only if we can have a child, right?" Victoria froze. How did Chloe know her plan? Seeing Victoria's expression, Chloe broke down and screamed, "Are you even human? How could you be so cruel?" I'd expected the Whitmore family drama, but it didn't interest me. In this life, whatever happened to the Whitmores had nothing to do with me. As soon as I boarded the bus, I instinctively looked for Avery. Sure enough, Avery stood in the back, looking my way. I squeezed through the crowd. "Morning, Avery." She smiled. "Morning. I brought your hat home. I washed it yesterday, but it's still damp. I'll return it tomorrow once it's dry." Avery smiled at me. "Sure. Ethan, do you have class this afternoon?" I shook my head. "No, but I have a restaurant shift." "Which restaurant?" "A place called Hearth and Vine. You've probably heard of it." Avery paused. Heard of it? She knew far more than that. Her mother owned the restaurant. After we got off the bus, Avery asked again, "Are you working at Hearth and Vine every night now?" I nodded. "Yes. My shift is from 7 to 9. Avery nodded and said nothing else. We split up and headed to our schools. Chloe didn't come to school all day. I figured that for the next few days, she probably wouldn't come at all. Adrian would be hospitalized for at least 3 days. Then he'd leave the country with his mother. In our last life, Chloe hated Adrian for leaving without a word. She obsessed over him for years. Now she could finally say a proper goodbye. After class, Mason was still gossiping with me. I heard on Campus Buzz that Adrian Cole from Harbor Tech and Chloe Whitmore made it official. Someone spotted them at Whitmore Medical Center. Rumor has it, and this is just a rumor, that Adrian... Mason lowered his voice and leaned toward my ear. "They say Adrian took some pills. He had an allergic reaction and wound up hospitalized on N4. Mason sighed. "Who knew these rich kids got so wild?" I was stunned. Campus Buzz knows even that? They even know Adrian took pills? Doesn't Whitmore Medical Center protect patient privacy? Mason lowered his voice. "Ethan, here's what you don't know. The hospital is owned by the Whitmores. But there are other shareholders too. And Miss Whitmore has tons of admirers. They're jealous of Adrian and want to dig up dirt on him. With that many people digging, nothing stays hidden." Mason's explanation made sense. When I was hospitalized in my last life, Rumors about me were everywhere too. They called me a gold-digging driver's son who seduced Miss Whitmore. The rumors got even crazier. They said my entrance scores were fake, and that I'd stolen someone else's identity to enroll. I sighed and told Mason, "Stay out of it. Just listen and move on. We can't casually gossip about the Whitmores." Mason nodded while looking at his phone. "Don't worry. I know where to draw the line." Chloe stayed away from both school and home. I enjoyed 2 more peaceful days, but I soon saw Chloe again. This time it was at my job at Hearth and Vine. I was clearing dishes in my black server uniform. Chloe arrived with Brooke and Madison and headed to a private room. On the way there, Chloe glanced aside and saw me carrying plates. Brooke said in surprise, "Chloe, Ethan works here. Is he that short on money?" Madison nudged Brooke. "Enough questions. Let's go." Brooke glanced at Chloe. Seeing her bad mood, she dropped it. Chloe had been miserable these past 2 days. Adrian had spent 2 days on N4. The doctor said the drug had seriously harmed his body. He'd need careful treatment and a long recovery. He'd also be infertile for the foreseeable future. By foreseeable, the doctor meant 1 or 2 years. But Chloe knew that in their last life I'd gone 5 full years without getting her pregnant. If the same happened to Adrian, he'd eventually learn the truth. How would she explain it then? Adrian was discharged today and returned to Cole residence to recover. Chloe hid the fact that Victoria had drugged him. She didn't know how to explain it to Adrian, or face him looking so worn down. More importantly, she suddenly wanted to see me. She watched me humbly explain dishes to a customer while carrying plates. A sudden wave of anger rose in her. Scowling, she left Brooke and Madison and strode toward me. That day, I had a difficult middle-aged customer. Instead of ordering, she kept grilling me. "You're new, aren't you? I've never seen you before. You go to one of the nearby colleges, right?" I smiled and nodded. "Yes, ma'am. What would you like to order?" She smiled and said, "Working at a restaurant this young? You must really need money. Got a lot of student loans? Can you even pay them back?" My smile nearly cracked, but I held back and said, "You don't need to worry about that, ma'am. Please take a moment to look over the menu. I'll come back for your order." I turned to leave, but the customer suddenly snapped, "Hey, I never said I wasn't ordering. What kind of service is this?" I'd worked there for 2 days, and this was my first customer this difficult. I was about to get the supervisor when I saw Chloe approaching with a cold expression. She suddenly kicked the woman's table and flipped the wooden table over. I stumbled back, staring at Chloe in shock. "Ma'am, what are you doing?" I hurried over to push Chloe away, but she stepped in front of me instead. She glared darkly at the woman. "Eat your meal or get the hell out." The woman shot to her feet and pointed at Chloe. "How I eat is none of your damn business. How dare you kick my table? Do you know who I am?" The woman had 2 companions with her. All 3 stormed up to Chloe. Chloe had bottled up days of anger and refused to hold back. Without a word, she punched the woman in the face. I was stunned. A brawl erupted instantly. Brooke and Madison saw it. Brooke yelled, "Holy crap!" and rushed in to help. Madison followed, making the scene even more chaotic. I quickly called the shift supervisor. He rushed over with 4 or 5 security guards. After a huge struggle, they finally pulled everyone apart. The middle-aged woman was bruised and battered, because Chloe had focused entirely on her. Her clothes were crumpled as she screamed, "Call the police. I'm reporting this." The incident caused an uproar. Everyone stared and whispered among themselves. When Martin heard, he rushed from his office in a panic. He immediately spotted Chloe in the middle of the crowd. His heart sank. Martin hurried over and asked in surprise, "Miss Whitmore, what brings you here today? Why didn't you let me know?" His voice betrayed his fear. After all, an heiress like Chloe had a private room reserved exclusively for her. As a premium member, Chloe always received Martin's personal attention. He didn't want this incident offending such an important guest. But when Martin looked closely at Chloe, his face went pale. Cold sweat broke out. Her hair and clothes were disheveled, clearly from a vicious fight. Who had a death wish bad enough to hit the Whitmore heiress? Martin's heart raced as he stammered, What happened here?" His voice was full of panic and concern. He knew Chloe was Victoria's precious daughter. If Victoria learned her beloved daughter had gotten into a fight here and injured her lip, the fallout would be disastrous. Victoria would be furious. She might even come here demanding answers. The middle-aged woman kept shouting, "You're the manager? Good, you're here. I was peacefully eating in your restaurant, and what happened? Your server treated me poorly. Then his friend attacked me. I'm calling the police and suing you." Martin frowned and turned toward me. I was about to explain when Chloe stepped in front of me. She glared at the woman and said, "Leave the server out of it. I hit you because I couldn't stand your face. You want to sue me? Go ahead and try." Brooke frowned, pulled out her phone, and said, Enough. I'll have my lawyer handle this. We're hungry, so we're going to eat. Martin knew these heiresses weren't people to cross. He quickly ordered security to escort the 3 women to the back office. Then he turned to me and said sternly, "Come here. Listen carefully. Take excellent care of Miss Whitmore. Nothing else can go wrong. Understood?" I quickly nodded. "Understood, Mr. Wallace." Martin relaxed slightly. He hurried after the 3 injured women into the office. He knew this couldn't be allowed to escalate. It would damage the restaurant's reputation and bring him unnecessary trouble. More importantly, he couldn't risk offending the Whitmores. The best move now was to start with the 3 injured guests and negotiate compensation. He needed to settle this fast. Paying extra was far better than crossing the Whitmores. Hearth and Vine was members only and known for its privacy. That made it popular with wealthy clients and celebrities. Its meeting rooms cost 5 figures a day. Anyone hoping to do business with celebrities or connect with the wealthy came here. If word spread that a member had been attacked inside, the restaurant's reputation would take a massive hit. Kevin followed Martin and quietly asked, "What should we do about the new intern?" Martin was already irritated. Though the customer was at fault, the new intern had caused trouble on his first shift. He said impatiently, "Pay him for his time and tell him not to come back." Kevin nodded. "Yes, Mr. Wallace. I'll handle it." Kevin came out looking for me but couldn't find me. He asked around and learned I knew Chloe. She had already called me into her private room. So he went to Chloe's door and heard her voice through the closed door. So I hit her. "What's the big deal?" "Ethan, why are you lecturing me? I was helping you. Or did you want her to pay off your loans?" "Oh, so that's the kind of guy you are." I stared at her speechlessly but kept my voice calm. "Miss Whitmore, I'm not blaming you. But this got way out of hand. Mrs. Whitmore may question me when we get back." The moment I mentioned Victoria, Chloe slammed the table with a bang. Brooke frowned. "Chloe, calm down." Chloe sneered and stared at me. "Ethan, do you always obey my mom? You do whatever she tells you?" Seeing me act so obedient made Chloe furious. She thought it was a shame I hadn't been reborn. I didn't know Victoria had set me up in our last life, damaging my health and leaving me infertile. If I knew, maybe I wouldn't obey Victoria now. I said calmly, "I'm not obeying her. I'm just tired of this. I don't want Victoria coming after me. That's why I need you to stop causing trouble around me. Chloe, I don't care what you do. The farther you stay from me, the better." Chloe glared at me with red-rimmed eyes. "You're just angry. I don't believe you." I'd always fussed over her. I wouldn't let her stay up late or drink. I'd keep her from fighting Victoria and always cared for her. When she was hospitalized, I cared for her day and night. She knew I loved her deeply. Chloe sat there, staring at me. "You're only saying this to hurt me, aren't you, Ethan?" I said blankly, "Think whatever you want. Miss Whitmore, I'm working. I need to get back." I opened the door and stepped out. Kevin was standing in the hall and our eyes met. He said awkwardly, "Ethan, you know Miss Whitmore?" I nodded awkwardly. "She's my classmate." Kevin thought we looked like far more than classmates, but he didn't pry. Instead, he said reluctantly, "Ethan, tonight's incident got out of hand. It's very bad for the restaurant. The owner doesn't know yet, but she'll hold us accountable. You're an intern, so you won't be held responsible. But you probably can't keep working here." Kevin was tactful, but I understood. I'd been fired after less than 2 days. It was unexpected, yet understandable. This was my first part-time job, and I never imagined it would end like this. I felt defeated but quickly pulled myself together. I apologized sincerely to Kevin. "I'm sorry, Mr. Price. You hired me and I only caused you trouble." Kevin waved it off. "It's fine. You don't need to apologize. We all know this wasn't your fault. But our members are all influential. In hospitality, sometimes we just have to take it. Some places even give employees hardship bonuses. That shows how much abuse service workers endure." The private room was dimly lit, as if the lights shared the oppressive mood. Chloe sat stone-faced, like an iceberg ready to erupt. She had just been through a vicious fight. The skin between her clenched thumb and index finger had split from the force of her punches. Bright red blood slowly seeped out. A dark bruise marked the corner of her mouth, left by a hard punch during the fight. It was beginning to swell and looked nasty. A server hurried over with ice and carefully offered it for the swelling. Brooke and Madison stood nearby. Their hands and necks were scratched too, marks left by the chaos. But they looked better than Chloe. Her injuries were all on her face and impossible to miss. Brooke and Madison had no facial injuries. Without the scratches, no one would know they'd just been in a brawl. Chloe tossed the ice onto the table. It struck the surface with a sharp clatter that rang through the quiet room. Her expression darkened further. He saw me fight for him and get hurt this badly, yet he didn't even bring me medicine. Her voice was full of resentment and hurt. Even the ice had come from another server. "I never showed up, leaving Chloe feeling as if a heavy stone pressed against her chest. Her thoughts drifted back to this time in their last life. I'd been so attached to her. Once, when she got hurt, my eyes had reddened with worry and filled with tears. I eventually cried, then rushed out to buy medicine. When I returned, I carefully treated her wounds, moving gently so I wouldn't hurt her. Even when Victoria tore into her, I quietly wait outside the door. Then I'd comfort her when she came out. Back then, I didn't have a part-time job. My life was simple and she was all I cared about. A thought suddenly struck Chloe. Too much had changed in this life. Nothing matched their last one. Had Ethan been reborn too? She dismissed the idea as soon as it appeared. No, impossible, Chloe thought. If Ethan had truly been reborn, his hatred for Victoria would keep him from living with the Whitmores. He certainly wouldn't follow her orders. Just then, Brooke frowned at Chloe. Chloe, you really acted too rashly today. Do you know this restaurant belongs to the Sinclairs? You caused trouble here. If they take this to your father, you'll be in serious trouble. Her voice carried both worry and reproach. Chloe froze, surprise flashing in her eyes. This restaurant belongs to the Sinclairs? Avery immediately came to mind. Which Sinclair family? Could it be Avery Sinclair's family? Brooke nodded. Her family had run restaurant chains for generations, so she knew Port Sterling's restaurant industry inside out. She leaned closer and lowered her voice. The Sinclairs mainly work in AI and renewable energy. They're huge in both industries. But a few years ago, they suddenly expanded into food and dining. Apparently, one of the younger Sinclairs was interested in it. They funded this restaurant. I don't know if Avery is connected to it. She is a Sinclair too, but it could just be a coincidence. Madison frowned nearby and said hesitantly, that can't be right. The Sinclairs have a massive empire. Across countless industries. Would they really let their daughter study agriculture? I heard Avery grows peanuts. That's a huge leap. To her, wealthy heirs usually joined their family's core business. Studying agriculture seemed unimaginable. Brooke rubbed her chin thoughtfully. I'm not sure. My family has never dealt with the Sinclairs. They're not from Port Sterling. They're based in Fairmont. Most of their influence is there too. As Port Sterling natives, Chloe and her friends had never really met the younger Sinclairs. Still, they doubted it was Avery Sinclair. What elite family would let their daughter study farming? It was unheard of. Simply unbelievable. After hearing this, Chloe suddenly stood and said gravely, I'll go check. She hurried toward the door. The room fell briefly silent after Chloe left. Madison scratched her head and quietly asked Brooke, Brooke, don't you think Chloe acts weird around Ethan? Curiosity filled her eyes. Brooke's face darkened, her voice tinged with frustration. She keeps wavering between Ethan and Adrian. She cares about one but can't let go of the other. If this continues, she'll lose them both and regret it. A complicated emotion crossed her eyes. She seemed deeply disappointed in Chloe. Watching Brooke, Madison began to suspect. She resented Chloe, but she said nothing more. She only sighed to herself. Meanwhile, I changed in the staff locker room. I neatly folded my uniform and put it in my locker. I packed my things and prepared to leave. Then I checked my phone and frowned. Chloe had sent me several messages. They came from her other Orbit account. Ethan, where did you go? Are you still talking to Avery? Did she get you this job? Ethan, stop taking the bus. I'll have Uncle Daniel drive you. Her messages made no sense to me. In our last life, Chloe constantly mocked and insulted me. She said I rode with her just to get her attention. Now I'd stopped, yet she still wasn't happy. And why was she suddenly bringing up Avery again? What did Avery have to do with this? I shook my head and didn't reply. Instead, I left the restaurant. Chloe searched the restaurant anxiously, but I was nowhere to be found. A thought suddenly struck her. Had Avery taken me away? After all, Avery's family might have funded this restaurant. The mere thought made her heart clench as if gripped by an invisible hand. Her agitation grew, and she couldn't calm down. The food looked tasteless and she couldn't eat. The private room now felt like a suffocating cage. Unable to sit still, she took her childhood friends Brooke and Madison to a table in the main dining area. Only Brooke and Madison, who had grown up with her, would indulge her like this. Anyone else would have lost patience. With her vicious mood swings, Madison felt sorry seeing Chloe so distraught. After ordering, she asked the server for Chloe, "Where's the new intern from Ashford? He's our classmate. Did his shift end?" She didn't need to explain. Everyone there knew they were connected. Just moments earlier, they'd fought other guests over that intern, and everyone knew it. The server leaned closer and quietly said, "I think he left. Our manager fired him over the incident." Her voice held a trace of sympathy. Madison froze. She instinctively glanced at Chloe, then blurted out in shock, "What? He got fired?" Her voice rose in surprise. The server nodded, confirming it. Brooke frowned deeply and looked at Chloe, with reproach in her eyes. "Chloe, you really went too far this time. She knew it was only my first shift. I'd hoped to gain experience and cover my expenses. Instead, Chloe's impulsiveness got me fired. I had to be devastated. Chloe's expression shifted as guilt washed over her. But she quickly said stubbornly, "So what? This place is too messy for him anyway." Despite her words, unease showed in her eyes. She began to wonder why I'd needed a job. Did the Whitmores pay Daniel too little? Was he unable to give me enough spending money? Was that why I had to work? Chloe talked tough, but she couldn't calm down. She fidgeted in her seat until she couldn't take it anymore. She stood and strode toward the exit, ready to leave and find me. Just as she reached the door, Brooke quickly stepped in her way. Brooke looked at her sternly. "Chloe, don't go after Ethan. Didn't Adrian just get discharged? You should go see him." To Brooke, Chloe was now torn between Ethan and Adrian. She was hurting both men and throwing her own life into chaos. Chloe's face instantly darkened. "Why are you stopping me from seeing him too? Brooke, did you fall for him because he gave you flowers at the welcome show?" Her voice was angry and accusatory. She seemed convinced Brooke had feelings for him. Brooke frowned, her face turning grim. She raised her voice at Chloe. "Chloe, listen to yourself. You're being irrational. Calm down." Brooke had noticed that whenever Ethan was involved, Chloe became a different person. She grew reckless and lost all reason. Chloe was already cold and self-centered. She rarely considered anyone else's perspective. That made it easy for her to hurt and alienate people. Yet she never realized it and always did whatever she wanted. Chloe scoffed with contempt. "Stay out of it. I know what I'm doing." She shook off Brooke's hand and headed straight to her car. She started the engine and sped away. Madison watched uneasily and told Brooke, "Brooke, why argue with Chloe? She's always been like this. The more you push, the less she'll listen." After a pause, she asked curiously, "You never used to get involved. Why speak up today?" Brooke was silent for a long time. "I couldn't stand watching it. She'll only cause him more trouble." She didn't need to name him. Madison knew she meant Ethan. Madison gave Brooke several curious looks. Brooke was acting strangely today. Usually quiet and content to watch from the sidelines, she was suddenly getting involved. I had just left the restaurant, feeling miserable. I headed straight for the bus stop. Standing there, I looked into the distance. The streetlights flickered on one by one. Their dim glow made my tired face look even lonelier. Then a red car came racing toward me. It stopped hard near the bus stop, and the door flew open. Chloe jumped out, her lip still bruised from the earlier fight, but the fury in her eyes had faded. Now she looked anxious and confused. She hurried over, slightly out of breath, and asked in a low voice, "Why didn't you answer? Did you miss my messages? Or ignore them?" A hint of hurt hid in her voice. I slowly turned and looked at her calmly. My eyes showed no emotion, as if Chloe were an irrelevant stranger. I said flatly, "Miss Whitmore, did you need something else?" My steady tone was like a cold blade, driven straight into her heart. My cold response sent pain through Chloe. She couldn't bear my indifference. She frowned, anger and resentment flashing across her face. She said grimly, "Ethan, I fought for you. Don't you have anything to say?" Her voice rose without her realizing it, as if trying to make me take her seriously. Her demanding tone left me speechless. My irritation kept growing. I bit my lip, annoyance flashing in my eyes. Still, Chloe fighting for me tonight was something I'd never expected. I paused and took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. Then I looked at Chloe and said quietly but firmly, "Miss Whitmore, don't ever do that again. I won't be grateful. I'll only see it as trouble." I stared directly into Chloe's eyes, determined to make my feelings clear. I told her exactly what she didn't want to hear. "I don't need you doing any of this for me. If you hadn't shown up, I would have been fine. The restaurant wouldn't be dealing with this mess. Do you know how many people your impulse inconvenienced? Our manager is still working with public relations to contain it. And it cost me my job." My voice was gentle, but every word stung. Chloe stood frozen as she listened. Her anger slowly turned to shock. She opened her mouth to speak. Though my voice was gentle and controlled, beneath my calm exterior, she clearly sensed my disgust and impatience with her. Since her rebirth, she'd remained trapped in memories of their last life. She couldn't adjust to how different I was now. I actually despised her. To her, that was impossible. How could it be true? When Chloe didn't respond, I gently moved her aside and said flatly, "If that's all, I'm leaving." I turned to go. Chloe snapped back to reality and grabbed my wrist. Her grip felt crushing as she stared at me, panic in her eyes as she asked, "Why did you suddenly get a job? Do you need money that badly?" I'd never worked part-time in our last life, which baffled her. I stiffened in her grip and turned around, giving her an answer she never expected. "I don't want to go back to the Whitmores. I don't want to see you." Chloe instinctively let go and stood there stunned. Her expression was impossible to describe. There was shock, hurt, and a helplessness she'd never felt before. I pulled free as a bus rolled into the stop. Without checking the route, I hurried aboard. The usually arrogant Chloe remained where she was, watching me leave with hurt in her eyes. I could feel her gaze, like shackles around me, but I never looked back. I was soft-hearted. When I first came to the Whitmores, I'd see Chloe fight with her mother and run away, sometimes even into a downpour. I could never leave her alone, so I'd follow. I'd comfort her, buy her water, and bring an umbrella. But my kindness brought me nothing good. Chloe was used to being a privileged heiress. She took everyone's kindness for granted. In my last life, love had blinded me. But after being reborn, I wouldn't repeat that mistake. Meanwhile, across the city, Avery hurried to Hearth and Vine's back entrance. The guard nodded, clearly familiar with her. Without stopping, she entered through the back door. By the time Avery arrived, the disturbance had already been contained. The 3 injured guests refused compensation and demanded police. Martin had to call Hearth and Vine Legal Affairs. He also contacted the Whitmores. Chloe had caused the whole mess. Since the restaurant couldn't resolve it alone, the Whitmores had to step in. The restaurant would compensate them and cooperate, but it couldn't accept outrageous demands. Avery first went to her private room and dropped off her bag, then headed to the dining room. She scanned the uniformed servers, but didn't see me. Frowning, she checked the kitchen too. Many employees recognized Avery. They assumed the boss had come to inspect them, so everyone worked even harder. Just then, Martin had finished handling the incident and saw Avery as he left the office. His heart jumped. He hurried over and cautiously asked, "Miss Sinclair, are you here to hold me accountable? This incident was indeed my oversight, but I had no idea. The new part-timer was Miss Whitmore's boyfriend. Otherwise, I never would have hired him." Avery stopped and turned without expression. Her dark gaze settled heavily on Martin. Mr. Wallace. Martin had worked in the industry for over a decade, but no young person had ever made his skin crawl like this. Feeling uneasy, he explained, "The situation is mostly under control. We've turned it over to legal affairs and public relations. They'll be here shortly." Avery cut him off. "This Miss Whitmore you mentioned, you mean Chloe Whitmore of Port Sterling? She was here?" Martin realized that after all his explaining, Avery hadn't even known about the incident. She clearly wasn't here to blame him. Martin breathed a sigh of relief. He wiped imaginary sweat from his brow and said, "Yes, earlier tonight, Miss Whitmore came with some friends. Her boyfriend happened to argue with a guest, so Miss Whitmore rushed in and attacked her." Martin recounted everything that had happened to Avery in full detail. Avery's frown deepened as she listened. She asked coldly, "Those 3 guests acted that badly and openly harassed our employee. Why would we ever serve members like that again? Do we need those 3 customers?" Martin froze and hesitantly replied, "No, I suppose not." Avery said icily, "Blacklist them. And where's the part-timer? Is his name Ethan Hayes?" Martin was even more surprised. "Yes, Miss Sinclair. You know him too?" Avery grew frustrated. She was late because she'd inspected plants with her advisor. She never expected this to happen. She rubbed her forehead and said, "That part-timer has it hard enough. Don't blame him." Cold sweat broke out on Martin's forehead. He'd only wanted to hire a part-timer. Who exactly had he brought into this place? Miss Whitmore had fought for him, and now Miss Sinclair was defending him. Worse, Martin had already fired him. Wiping away cold sweat, Martin said, "Miss Sinclair, I already dismissed the part-timer. He was paid and has left." Avery frowned at Martin and sighed. "Fine. What's done is done. Handle this properly. I'm leaving." She turned and hurried away. Martin quickly asked, "Miss Sinclair, why not eat before you go? We launched new dishes today. You could try them." Avery quickly returned to her private room, grabbed her bag, and strode back out. "No, maybe next time." Avery had messaged me, but I hadn't replied. She was worried about me, but aside from Orbit, she didn't have my number. She knew where I lived, but it was Chloe's home, so showing up felt inappropriate. With no other choice, Avery took a ride to Willowcrest Estates. It was after 9 when she got out. At the entrance, she checked her phone. I still hadn't replied. But soon, she saw someone approaching along the road. It was me. I was getting irritated. I'd already let go of everything from our last life. Yet Chloe kept coming after me. Could it be? I stopped as a terrifying thought hit me. Had Chloe been reborn too? No way. If Chloe had been reborn, she should be stopping Adrian from leaving the country. Her dream guy was right there. Why keep bothering a substitute like me? As I thought about it, a cool female voice called my name through the night breeze. I looked up and saw Avery beneath a dim streetlight. Her expression was complicated. She strode over and studied my face. My eyes widened in surprise. "Avery, what are you doing here?" After 2 seconds of silence, Avery said, "It's my birthday. I'm having a party. Want to come?" I was even more surprised. "Oh, really? Happy birthday, Avery. I pulled over my backpack and searched through it. I found nothing. Finally, I took the little chick plush off my bag and handed it to Avery with a blush. Happy birthday, Avery. I didn't know, so I didn't buy you anything. In my last life, Chloe had taken this chick charm. This time, I'd planned to keep it. Avery looked at the chick in my hand. It had bright yellow fur, a red collar, and a straw hat over its fluffy head. A tiny bell hung from its neck. It was adorable. Avery calmly reached out and took it. Her warm fingers brushed mine. My hand trembled, and I quickly pulled it back. Avery glanced at me and saw my cheeks were red. She lowered her gaze and quickly clipped the chick to her purse. She said softly, "This is perfect. I love it." I felt the little charm wasn't much of a gift, but Avery really seemed to like it. Avery asked, "We're going to karaoke. Want to join us?" It was a question, but her expectant eyes stayed fixed on me. I was already in a terrible mood. If Victoria learned Chloe had fought over me at the restaurant, who knew what she'd secretly put in my food? I immediately nodded. "Sure. Are we leaving now?" Avery nodded and ordered a ride on her phone. At that moment, she suddenly regretted fighting with her parents over studying agriculture. When she left home, she should have taken her Maybach. Grandpa gave it to her. Her parents hadn't paid for it. Surely she could take it back. She couldn't keep taking rides everywhere with Ethan. She still had to rent a place and take Ethan out more often. No, she should just buy another car. She still had some money. While thinking it over, she messaged her research group. "It's my birthday. Everyone come to Starlight Karaoke Lounge." There were only 7 people in the chat. Some were still in the fields, while others were rushing through papers. The message immediately fired everyone up. 7. You finally remembered to buy us dinner. Miss Sinclair is treating? I have to come. I haven't eaten yet. We're ordering the expensive stuff tonight. Wait. 7. If I remember right, isn't your birthday in July? The date doesn't add up. Is it really your birthday? Our ride arrived, and Avery opened my door. She waited until I got in before walking around to the other side. Once inside, she replied, "It is if I say it is. Just come." Then she added, "I'm bringing a friend. Don't blow it." Only then did she put away her phone. I was still feeling down, so Avery turned to me. "Want some bubble tea? I hear it cheers people up." I asked back, "Do you want some? I can buy it for you." When Avery brought me in, her groupmates were already there. There were 3 guys and 3 girls. With Avery and me, that made 8. They got excited when Avery arrived. 7, you're finally here. We were waiting for you. A slightly chubby girl with glasses lunged forward to hug Avery. Avery quickly pulled me aside and frowned. "Slow down. You almost hit someone. Ethan's so thin. You could knock him over." Only then did everyone notice me behind Avery. Their eyes widened in surprise. A tall guy asked in surprise, "Avery, did you bring your boyfriend?" Everyone instantly started teasing. "No way. 7 has a boyfriend?" I blushed in embarrassment. I turned to Avery. Her eyes were smiling. She pulled me over and told them, "This is Ethan Hayes, a freshman at Ashford. He's not my boyfriend." Everyone said, "Oh," with knowing smiles. They got it. Not yet, but probably soon. They'd never seen Avery close to any guy before. She was always aloof and kept everyone at a distance. This was the first time her groupmates had seen anyone by her side, especially a male student. They exchanged meaningful looks. Avery had faked her own birthday just to invite him out. She clearly liked him. Everyone's eyes gleamed with gossip. One girl eagerly handed me a Coke. "Hey, freshman. I'm Tessa Morgan. You can call me Tessa." Before I could answer, Avery said coldly, "You've been collecting freshmen all semester. You've got a truckload by now." Tessa protested, "This one's different. He looks much sweeter." Avery whispered, "Ignore them. Have some fruit." She set the fruit platter before me and peeled an orange. Everyone stared at us strangely. Their looks made me uncomfortable. They said nothing aloud, but their group chat exploded. "Damn, 7 has great taste. This freshman is gorgeous. Are you pursuing him? Want us to help?" They sent message after message, but Avery didn't reply. Then Tessa made that offer, and Avery immediately answered, "How?" The others exchanged looks. Tessa swept back her hair. "Leave it to me." Tessa put down her phone, lowered the music, and grinned. "All right, party classic, truth or dare. Who's in?" Someone complained in the chat. "Can't you be more original?" Tessa glared at Avery. "I'm helping you land a husband. Do I have to teach you how to play along?" Tessa shouted, 7, are you playing?" Avery sighed and turned to me. "Ethan, wanna play?" Truth or dare was popular at college parties, but I'd never played it. Tessa lit up. "Great. Everyone's playing. I'll get the cards." Everyone formed a circle around the table. I leaned toward Avery. "Avery, didn't you get a birthday cake?" Until I asked. Avery had almost forgotten it was supposedly her birthday. After a pause, she said, "I had cake at lunch. so I didn't get another one tonight. She sounded a little guilty, but I didn't question her. Who would expect someone to fake their own birthday? Tessa returned with the cards. The 8 of us sat in a circle. Tessa sat on my other side. She eagerly set the cards down and shouted, "Come on, pick a card." 7 had finally found a freshman she liked. They had to do everything they could to help her. Once everyone had a card, Tessa asked loudly, "Who has the ace? Flip it over." Everyone checked their cards. Avery placed hers face up on the table. She had a 2. This was my first time playing. I flipped mine over. It was the ace of spades. Avery raised an eyebrow at Tessa. Tessa gave her an innocent look. She hadn't rigged anything. It was fate. Tessa brought over 2 small boxes. "All right, freshman. Truth or dare?" After hesitating, I said, "Truth." Everyone's eyes instantly lit up. "Truth. Huh? No backing out, freshman." One girl grinned and drew a slip from the box labeled "Truth." She handed it to me. "Open it and read the question." I took the slip and slowly unfolded it. Tessa leaned over and read aloud, "When was your first love?" Everyone stared eagerly at me. Even Avery turned and watched me closely. I hesitated for a few seconds. In this life, I hadn't had a first love. But if my last life counted, I'd fallen for Chloe at 18 and started dating her at 19. I hadn't lost my memory. I remembered everything. After such a painful relationship, I could never be that innocent first-time lover again. I laughed awkwardly and answered vaguely, "Back when I was in school." That barely answered the question. Everyone looked from me to Avery. Avery's expression stiffened, and her eyes turned cold. "In school? When exactly?" Tessa cleared her throat and asked curiously, "Freshman, the semester only started a month ago. Was it this semester? Who's your girlfriend?" I rolled up the slip, put it back and said shyly, "Not college. It was back in high school." One girl said, "Honestly, when I first started kindergarten, I liked a boy. A crush still counts as first love." Another guy joined in. "Then I had my first love when I was 3. Avery's expression relaxed. That explanation did make some sense. Tessa was speechless. "Fine. Everyone's had a first love. Happy? Come on. Next round." In round 2, one girl drew the ace and chose dare. Tessa read the slip aloud. "Pick someone and sit on their lap for 5 minutes." Everyone started teasing. "Don't pick me. My bad knees can't take it." Amid the laughter, the girl cheerfully said, "I'll pick one of the pretty girls." She chose another girl and the game soon continued. This time, Avery drew the ace. She revealed her card and smiled. "I'll choose dare." Tessa immediately offered the box and gave her a pointed look. Tessa was being painfully obvious. Avery sighed. She followed Tessa's gaze and picked a slip. Tessa took it and read aloud, "Interlace fingers with the person on your right for 10 minutes." Everyone instantly cheered. "Wow, 7. Lucky you." The big guy on Avery's left shouted, "Hey, don't overdo it. You'll scare the freshmen away. How about this? 7, hold my hand instead. My palms get a little sweaty, but it's no big deal. You don't mind, right? Come on, 7. He reached for Avery's hand. Avery quickly shoved it into her pocket. He grabbed her arm and tried to pull it out. "Don't be shy. I don't mind, so why should you? Come on." Avery backed away helplessly. "Stop it. I'm not holding your hand." Tessa stepped in and blocked him. "Follow the rules." "Hey, freshman." Tessa grinned. "It's just a game. You don't mind, right?" Watching them joke around made me envy their friendship. I shook my head shyly. "I don't mind." I even held out my hand and smiled at Avery. Avery's ears reddened, but she remained composed. "Thanks." Her right hand met my left. My fingers slowly slid between hers, gently holding her soft, pale hand. The moment our hands joined, my face turned bright red. I'd never interlaced fingers with a girl before. It felt extremely intimate, something usually reserved for couples. Yet in 5 years with Chloe, we'd never held hands like this. The game continued, but my heart was racing. All my senses focused on my left hand in hers. I sat stiff with nerves, my cheeks burning. Avery sat there without changing expression. But anyone who knew her could see it in her stiff movements and slightly delayed reactions. She was anything but calm inside. I was so nervous. This felt so strange. I quietly tried to pull my hand away, but Avery held too tightly for me to escape. We stayed that way, fingers intertwined, for 10 minutes. When time was up, Avery's palm was slightly damp. I wasn't the only nervous one. Avery's heart was pounding even harder. Neither of us was picked again in the next few rounds. As Avery watched the others joke around, she handed me a mochi cream puff and quietly asked, "Are you hungry? Want something else?" I took the cream puff and whispered, "No, this is enough." I'd been fired less than 2 hours into my shift, so I'd felt awful. I hadn't eaten much that night, but playing games and singing with Avery and her friends had already lifted my mood. I'd never had many friends, so even when I didn't want to return to the Whitmores, I had nowhere else to go. I was truly grateful Avery had brought me along. I didn't wonder why she helped me so much. I'd grown up insecure about my poor background, then endured a failed relationship with Chloe. I lacked confidence in both life and love. Deep down, I believed no one could truly love me, especially not someone as beautiful and kind as Avery. There was no way she'd like me. At that thought, I glanced at Avery. She was gorgeous, graceful, and incredibly kind. Chloe couldn't compare. But thinking of Chloe ruined my mood again. Avery quickly noticed. She turned and looked at me with concern. What's wrong? I blushed and shook my head. Nothing. I lowered my head awkwardly. This was bad. Ever since we'd interlaced fingers, I couldn't look Avery in the eye. Even seeing her hands made me blush. After more than a dozen rounds of truth or dare, it was getting late. Everyone there was basically an overworked farm mule for their advisor. They dug in the fields before sunrise and dragged themselves home muddy after dark. It was already 11. The farm mules were ready to leave. If the dorms locked, they'd have nowhere to sleep. Tessa asked Avery, 7, are you going back to the dorm? Avery used to live on campus. She owned a house nearby in Willowcrest Estates, but rarely went there. Lately, however, she barely returned to the dorm. Tessa looked between Avery and me, her curiosity obvious. Sure enough, Avery shook her head. No, I'm taking Ethan home. Tessa grinned. Oh sure, we'll leave you two alone then. Most of them lived in the dorms. They made it back before the dorms locked. Avery led me out of the mall, called another ride, and asked, did you have fun tonight? She studied my face to see if I was still upset. I smiled. Thanks, Avery. I had a great time. Avery smiled. Good. I was worried you wouldn't like all the noise. I did look like the quiet, well-behaved type. She'd worried karaoke might make me uncomfortable. Meanwhile, everyone in the group chat was teasing Avery. 7's incredible. She's the youngest, but she'll find a boyfriend first. Guys, does anyone have connections? Can someone introduce me to a cute freshman too? I need help harvesting my peanuts. I'll bond with a freshman over the harvest. Avery, we're free Wednesday afternoon. Ask Ethan if he wants to do an escape room. Let's pick a horror room. Evil grin. Tessa was the one who suggested it. She always had the most devious ideas. She'd never dated anyone, but when it came to pursuing guys, she knew every trick in the book. Avery sat beside me in the car. After seeing the message, she replied to Tessa. An escape room is fine, but why horror? Ethan might get scared. Tessa was exasperated. 7, are you an idiot? Without me, you'll never land a husband. Listen, when you take your crush to an escape room, the scarier, the better. How else will you jump into his arms? Just wait. Bring Ethan Wednesday. I'll handle everything. Avery thought Tessa was dramatic and unreliable, but karaoke had worked. At least she'd held my hand. Ever since then, I'd avoided her eyes. I'd suddenly grown shy around her. That was a good sign. When Avery liked someone, she moved fast. She hated dragging things out. What if someone else took her crush? And Chloe's attitude toward me was hard to read. Avery felt seriously threatened. With that in mind, Avery turned to me. Ethan, do you have class Wednesday afternoon? I paused. I don't think so. Let me check. I opened my schedule. Then I showed it to Avery. I'm free Wednesday afternoon. Avery glanced over my schedule. With her photographic memory, she instantly memorized it. She asked softly, the others want to do an escape room Wednesday. Ever tried one? Avery was close, her voice low and husky, almost whispering in my ear. My cheeks instantly turned red. An escape room? It was another popular activity that students loved, but I'd never tried. I was naturally introverted, but after tonight, I liked hanging out with Avery and her friends. I could relax because they were so lively. They never made me feel out of place. I lowered my head, blushing. I've never tried one. Have you? Is it fun? Avery smiled at my expression and said softly, me neither. We can try it together Wednesday. By the time we reached Willowcrest Estates, it was already 11:30. I rarely came home this late. In my last life, I was usually home by 6 or 7. But lately, I kept returning late. Chloe stood at the entrance, arms crossed as she stared darkly down the road. Avery got out with me, and we walked side by side toward the entrance. Chloe turned and strode away, stone-faced. At the entrance, I asked Avery, do you live nearby too? Avery also owned a villa in Willowcrest Estates. Her grandfather bought it when she decided to study near Ashford. Her parents opposed her studying agriculture. They cut off her allowance and said she was on her own through college. But her grandfather supported her. He'd lived in the country when he was young, and still enjoyed growing vegetables. Harold adored his granddaughter, so he bought her a large villa nearby. Its front and back gardens totaled over 2,000 square feet, giving Avery plenty of room to grow things. Avery pointed and told me, I live that way. It's close. I looked where she pointed. I didn't realize she meant Willowcrest Estates. I only saw a sea of lights. I assumed Avery lived in one of the neighborhoods over there. At the entrance, I said goodbye. Thanks for bringing me home, Avery. I'll head in. Avery stopped, nodded, and waved. See you tomorrow. My gaze fell on her pale, slender hand and made me remember our fingers intertwined earlier that night. I blushed, turned, and went inside. When Chloe got home, Victoria had already returned from work and was waiting in the living room. Chloe had discovered that Victoria drugged Adrian, so Victoria had avoided her for 2 days. She feared Chloe might hate her. When Chloe entered, Victoria set down her phone and called, "Chloe, come here." Chloe ignored her and headed upstairs. Victoria frowned, suppressed her anger, and called again. "Chloe Whitmore," I said, "come here." Chloe stopped on the stairs. She turned with a dark, irritated expression, strode to the couch and crossed her legs. "What do you want?" Victoria sat there with a mocking smile. "What else? Your marriage to Adrian." Chloe froze, then frowned. "Stay out of my relationship with Adrian." "What marriage?" She hadn't even considered marriage. Victoria said sarcastically, "You were crazy about Adrian. I thought you couldn't live without marrying him. Why are you so opposed now that I mention marriage?" "Chloe, what do you really want?" Chloe frowned and snapped. "Can you stay out of my life? First, you opposed us. Now you want us married. What do you want from me?" Victoria opened a news article and put her phone in front of Chloe. "See for yourself." Chloe irritably picked it up, then frowned. "Who leaked this?" The articles showed her dating Adrian and entering hotels with him, even bringing him back to Whitmore Estate. The Whitmores were Port Sterling's wealthiest and most famous family. As their heir, Chloe had been in the public eye since childhood. Her choice to stay at Ashford instead of going abroad had made headlines for days. Adrian's father had been a government official, but recently fell from power. While he was under investigation, Chloe was dating his son, and had even brought him home. People were bound to speculate. Reports flooded the internet and people began claiming the Whitmores and Coles were involved in political corruption. Victoria sneered. "Now the whole world knows you're dating Adrian. You got what you wanted. Happy?" Chloe set down the phone and said coldly, "Why haven't you taken it down? Will this hurt Whitmore Holdings stock?" Did her father know? The thought infuriated Chloe. She asked coldly, "How did this happen? Who leaked everything?" Victoria scoffed. "Who else? It had to be the Coles. Adrian was supposed to flee abroad, but now he has the Whitmores to cling to. Of course he doesn't want to leave." Victoria took back her phone and told her assistant to handle it. Then she looked at Chloe. "I've already taken care of this, but you should reconsider your relationship with Adrian." Chloe was beside herself. So who had leaked it? Victoria seemed to think the Coles were behind it. But Chloe refused to believe Adrian would manipulate her. Chloe grabbed her keys and drove to see Adrian that night. As she pulled out, I happened to be walking in. Her headlights hit me. I raised a hand to block the glare and glanced at the driver's seat. My eyes met Chloe's dark gaze. I frowned and stepped aside. Chloe wanted to ask what was going on between Avery and me, and why she kept seeing us together. Nothing like this had happened in their last life. But she realized she had no right to ask, especially after she'd just gotten me fired. She didn't show it, but she worried I was angry with her. After hesitating, Chloe drove away. When I reached the staff house, Dad stood up from a chess game with the other drivers. "Ethan, you're back." I opened my door, surprised to see him. "Dad, why are you still up?" Dad nodded. "Let's talk inside." Dad rarely talked with me now. We used to talk often when I was little, but less and less as I grew up. His expression made me nervous. "Dad, did something happen?" Dad entered and sat on a stool. He watched me organize my bag and said, "Ethan, there's something I need to tell you." After hesitating, he said, "I'm quitting. I won't be driving for the Whitmores anymore." My hands froze, and I looked at him in surprise. "You don't want the job anymore?" Dad used to say working for the Whitmores was great. Arthur and the other drivers were easy to get along with. The job included room, board, and full benefits. Better yet, it paid well and wasn't demanding. He'd planned to stay. Why was he suddenly quitting? Dad looked at me. "Mrs. Whitmore has been giving you trouble, hasn't she?" His face grew serious. "Has Miss Whitmore been mistreating you too?" Daniel refused to let his son suffer. Even if I moved into the dorms, he still wanted to quit. He didn't want people mocking me at school. As someone's driver's son, he couldn't bear seeing me humiliated. After a long silence, I asked, "What about Linda? Did you talk to her?" Dad nodded and sighed. "She won't quit, so I'll resign and go back home for a while. She'll keep working here." But Linda wasn't my biological mother, so her staying wouldn't affect me much. Dad and I sat face to face. He reassured me, "Don't worry about me. Once I quit, I'll head back home. I've always wanted to move your grandparents' graves together. I never had time before. Now I can finally do it." Dad continued, "The old house needs repairs too. You said the roof leaks. Soon, we won't even be able to stay there for the holidays. Dad had always wanted to return home, but he'd spent years supporting me and paying for school. He even worked through the holidays. My eyes reddened. Dad, I'm sorry. At least after being reborn, I knew how to avoid the same dangers. I wouldn't foolishly believe Chloe loved me again, or think Victoria would accept me, only to ruin my life. I'd even dragged Dad down. He'd actually saved a decent amount. He could buy a small home outright on the outskirts of Port Sterling. A small 2-bedroom place would be enough for me. He already had plans for himself. He'd open a small store in town or grow trees in the country. He'd retire in a few years anyway. My future came first. As for Linda, she could stay if she wanted. Dad could visit her regularly. When she finally quit, he'd bring her home. But he wouldn't let Linda interfere in my life. Sometimes Linda truly had no sense of priorities. After Dad left, I couldn't sleep all night. Chloe and I had dated for 5 years before. Though it ended badly, she'd at least treated me well on the surface. The worst part was Victoria drugging me and ruining my health, making the Whitmores look down on me. In this life, everything was heading in a new direction. Yet that only made me more anxious about the uncertain future and whether the crash would still happen. I sat up as frogs croaked outside. I switched on my bedside lamp, drew the curtains, and opened the window. The night breeze carried the scent of damp earth and faint flowers into my room. I leaned over the bed to look at the garden. In the dim light, I saw someone sitting in the gazebo. The person wore white and sat on a stone bench, long legs stretched out while facing my window. I froze when I realized it was Chloe. Startled, I looked away and moved to close the window. It was 2 in the morning. Why was Chloe still outside my window? She was like a haunting ghost. It was creepy. Hadn't she driven out earlier? Why was she back so soon? Hadn't she gone to see Adrian? Chloe saw me closing the window. She suddenly stood and hurried over. Her voice was hoarse as she called softly, "Ethan, wait." I kept closing it, forcing Chloe to rush over and press a hand against the glass. She leaned against the window and met my eyes. Chloe stared at me, smelling faintly of alcohol. She said softly, "Ethan, how about being my boyfriend?" My face hardened as I stared coldly at her. "No thanks." Chloe stared in shock. She hadn't expected me to refuse. She'd asked the same thing before, and I'd immediately said yes. Chloe grew irritated. "Why are you rejecting me? Is it because of Avery?" Chloe couldn't imagine any other reason. I grew impatient. "This has nothing to do with Avery." I looked at Chloe with a cold smile. "Chloe, I simply don't like you." After a pause, I added, "You're incredibly annoying." No one had ever said that to Chloe before. She'd always been adored and surrounded by admirers. One crook of her finger sent people racing toward her, each desperate to reach her first. Yet I'd called her annoying. Chloe's expression darkened as she stood in silence, staring as if she hadn't understood me. After a long moment, Chloe finally snapped out of it and realized she was losing control again. She'd meant to speak calmly with me. She looked straight at me and slowly asked, "So you're angry because I never properly pursued you, right?" Her low, measured voice carried an unreadable emotion. I looked at her blankly, finding it deeply ironic. I'd loved her before, but she'd never truly seen me. Now that I wanted nothing to do with her, she demanded to know why. It was ridiculous. I shook my head. "No, whether you pursue me or not, we'll never be together." Chloe didn't believe me. She thought we'd always been perfect together. I had to be angry with her because of Adrian. Chloe reached out and lightly gestured toward my face through the darkness. An unreadable look crossed her face before she spoke again, her voice slightly lower. "Either way, I'm gonna try pursuing you." I frowned at her in disgust. "Are you deaf? I just clearly rejected you. We barely know each other. Stop coming to see me." With that, I turned to close the window. As I reached for it, Chloe finally released the window frame. The window shut with a crisp click. Then I quickly pulled the curtains closed, completely cutting off her view. Chloe stood in the darkness, staring at my window for a long time. She had only just returned. At Cole residence, she'd seen Adrian's pale face and heard Diane say they no longer planned to leave the country. Diane wanted Chloe to marry Adrian, so the Whitmores could save the Coles. When Chloe left Cole residence, she could barely breathe. Everything was different, she murmured. Ethan had changed. He no longer cared for or loved her. And Adrian, the dream guy she'd kept in her heart, the man she'd longed for over 5 years, was only scheming against her. She didn't dare wonder if Adrian would still love her, if she weren't the Whitmore heir. The next morning, as I left the estate, I saw Chloe parked by the road in a blue sports car. She watched me through sunglasses. "Ethan, get in." Holding a bottle of milk, I walked right past her. "No thanks, Miss Whitmore. I'll take the bus." Chloe frowned and slowly drove alongside me. "Ethan, didn't you agree to let me pursue you last night?" I said nothing of the sort. When Chloe said she'd pursue me, I'd clearly refused, but she obviously hadn't listened. I walked over to the car, and Chloe assumed I was getting in. Her frown eased into a smile. I knew you'd get in. I had no intention of letting her pursue me. I walked up and said seriously, Miss Whitmore, I never said that, and I don't want to ride to school. You and your car draw too much attention. I don't want to make the news again. I turned, took a side path, and headed for the bus. Chloe's face fell. Frustrated, she slapped the steering wheel. Then her phone rang. It was Adrian. She softened her expression and answered. Hello, Adrian? Adrian's weak voice came through. Chloe, can you come stay with me at the hospital? When Chloe arrived, Adrian was in bad shape. Seeing Adrian like this made Chloe hate Victoria even more. She couldn't understand how Victoria could be cruel enough to do this. Adrian had been drugged and hospitalized because of her. What if he never fully recovered? Would guilt force her to stay with him forever? That's how love works. Once someone becomes a burden, love begins to fade. Adrian was on and for, his face pale and sickly. His expression worsened when Chloe entered. He stared at her and asked, Chloe, why did you suddenly leave yesterday? Was it because my mom brought up marriage? Chloe sat beside his bed and gently stroked his hair. Something came up. It wasn't about that, so don't overthink it. Adrian sneered. Chloe Whitmore, how long will you keep lying to me? His face twisted as he glared at her resentfully. I ate that porridge at your house, then suddenly ended up hospitalized. I'm still not better. Do you know what the doctor said? After learning the truth, Chloe had ordered the doctor to hide it. Whitmore Medical Center was her family's private hospital. The staff shouldn't have dared reveal anything. Chloe gave him a complicated look. What did the doctor say? As she studied his face, she wondered which doctor had disobeyed her. Adrian looked at Chloe in disappointment. They had grown up together, and Chloe had liked him since middle school. He'd thought her feelings were real, but apparently not. Adrian looked at her with red-rimmed eyes. I knew your doctors wouldn't tell me the truth. So my mom took me to Port Sterling General Hospital. They said I overdosed on medication. Adrian began to cry, his voice hoarse. That drug already has serious side effects, and I'm especially sensitive to it. Even a normal dose could harm me. And the doctor said I was given far too much. Chloe, your mother is a murderer, and you're her accomplice. Panic initially crossed Chloe's face, but she quickly regained her composure. She and Victoria didn't get along, but their reputations were tied. If her mother was branded a murderer, her own name would suffer too. Victoria was Charles Whitmore's wife. If this got out, Whitmore Holdings stock could crash. With that in mind, Chloe looked at the sobbing Adrian and quickly pulled him into her arms. Stroking his hair, she whispered, It's okay. You're sick, so don't get worked up. It'll break my heart if you make yourself worse. Adrian sobbed in her arms. What am I supposed to do now? I've never even had a girlfriend, and my body's already ruined. What will I? Don't say that. You'll be fine. Chloe comforted him. You're just sick. The doctors said you can recover. Don't assume the worst. Chloe leaned closer and gazed at him tenderly. Whether you recover or not, I'll never abandon you. If you're still worried, let's get engaged this month. Adrian stared at her, delight filling his eyes. Really? Chloe, you'll marry me? I was surprised not to see Avery on the bus. I'd seen her there almost every day lately. I checked the time. This was definitely our usual bus. Maybe Avery had no class today. I rode to school alone. On the way, I considered messaging her. But after some thought, it didn't feel appropriate. We weren't close enough to question each other's plans. And it wasn't just that day. I didn't see Avery for the next 3 days. Then the housing office contacted me. My dorm application had been approved. I was thrilled. After class, Mason and I went to see it. Mason told me, we're both on the 5th floor. I'm in 504, and you're in 502. I asked around. Your 3 roommates are all history majors. I've met them. They're all easygoing. I nodded. That's good. At the dorm, we found the previous student had left the bed spotless. So we decided to buy some essentials. I'd move in tomorrow. Dad had already quit anyway. At last, I could completely leave the Whitmores behind. A guy with glasses in the room asked, which one of you is moving in? I immediately answered, me. I'm Ethan Hayes, a freshman at the College of Arts and Letters. He looked at me. I'm Julian Foster from the history department. You look familiar. I knew exactly why. It had to be from when I helped Victoria photograph Chloe in class and ended up on Campus Buzz. That was why everyone recognized me. I'd endured worse in my last life. By now, things like this couldn't faze me. Mason grinned. Julian Foster, you look familiar too. I know you. You performed at the freshman welcome show, right? Mason walked over and eagerly started chatting with Julian. By the time they finished, they'd added each other on Orbit. And were already calling each other bro. Mason was unbelievable. After we left, I said I needed dorm supplies from the campus store. I did some basic setup in the room, then planned to head back right after afternoon classes. and move in that night. Mason looked confused. Ethan, why the rush? Of course I'm rushing. I've waited forever. Besides, I found another part-time job at Lakeview Anglers Club. I'll work the front desk during busy afternoons and evenings, register members and sell fishing gear. The work sounds simple and pretty easy. It's a little far from school and even farther from Whitmore Estate. Living on campus would make the commute much easier. That afternoon, I went back and packed. After telling Dad, I rolled my suitcase out of Whitmore Estate. Victoria had just returned from work and asked Arthur, "Why is Ethan moving out?" Arthur sighed. "Daniel is resigning, so Ethan is moving into the dorms." Victoria replied indifferently, "Then hire another driver. We pay well. Finding a good one won't be hard." Arthur sighed inwardly and nodded. As Victoria handed him her purse and coat, she said, "It's better that Ethan moved out. He used to ride to school with Chloe every day. I worried he might develop inappropriate feelings for her. Luckily, making him photograph Chloe at school upset her. Otherwise, she might have actually fallen for him." Arthur forced a smile and nodded. "Yes, you truly think of everything, Mrs. Whitmore. As expected of the lady of the Whitmore family. You plan so far ahead. The day I moved in, I hesitated for a long time before messaging Avery. Avery, I moved into the dorms. Now I won't have to catch the early bus." Avery had just left campus with her classmates. When she suddenly stopped, she frowned, her expression darkening. Tessa, who was walking beside her, finally couldn't resist asking, "Seven, why have you checked your phone nonstop for 3 days? Whose message are you waiting for?" Avery rarely used her phone, yet she kept picking it up, as if expecting someone's message. Tessa had told her, "Stop waiting and make a move." But Avery had replied, "I am making a move. You wouldn't understand." That silenced Tessa, who then complained, "What are you playing hard to get? Why are you treating this like some military campaign?" Avery said nothing. Today my message finally arrived. A weight lifted from her heart. After she skipped the bus for 3 straight days, I had finally contacted her. Good. This was a great start. It meant I cared about her. Then Avery's face fell. Why had he moved into the dorms? How was she supposed to carry out her plan now? Her strategy had backfired. Avery truly hadn't expected me to move. Then again, living on campus might be a good thing. Chloe acted strangely toward me. As a woman, Avery could clearly sense that Chloe treated me differently. Avery couldn't help wondering. But judging by Ethan's attitude toward Chloe, there was probably nothing between them anymore. Avery stared at her phone, knowing she had to move fast. She messaged me, "You're living on campus now? Need help moving?" I replied quickly, "I'm already moved in. I didn't have much. We're all done." Avery felt a little disappointed. I still remembered promising to treat Avery. Sitting on my dorm bed, I messaged her, "When are you free, Avery? Let me buy you dinner." I'd promised her dinner or bubble tea ages ago, but we'd never found the chance. Avery raised an eyebrow. Recalling my schedule, she replied, "I'm free tomorrow afternoon. I don't have class." She could take me to a nearby barbecue place for roasted lamb. Her classmates loved it and she thought I would too. Unexpectedly, I declined. "Sorry, Avery. I work tomorrow afternoon. How about the day after? You found another part-time job? What is it? Where? Is it safe?" I sent Avery the location. "It's a fishing club. I'll work the front desk and sales. It seems legit." I found it on the Ashford Student Jobs Board. Another student worked there before. Soon I forwarded Avery the original job posting from the group. Avery immediately opened Google Maps and searched for Lakeview Anglers Club. After finding it, she searched online for more details and carefully read its listings and reviews. Just then, Tessa returned from a nearby store with 2 sausage sticks. She started eating one and handed the other to Avery. "Seven, aren't you leaving? It's already dark." Avery took a bite, then suddenly turned to Tessa. "You're familiar with the area, right? Do you know where I can buy fishing gear nearby?" Tessa was enjoying her sausage when she heard the question. Before she could swallow, she repeated indistinctly, "Fishing gear?" Her gaze involuntarily dropped below Avery's waist. Avery glared darkly at her. Tessa flinched and quickly asked, "What kind of gear are we talking about? Are you that lonely?" Avery was speechless. "Gear for fishing. I want a full set so I can go fishing this weekend." Tessa looked surprised. "You're not even in aquaculture. Why are you going fishing?" Avery said nothing. After class, I packed my things and rode a rental bike to Lakeview Anglers Club. The club was huge, and the front desk stayed busy. Most members were older men. Many were retired, so weekends made little difference. Weekdays were busy too. They gladly spent money on memberships, bait, and gear. But many spoke in local dialects I couldn't understand. 2 people staffed the desk. One was a woman. She was related to the owner, a graduate student who helped out in her free time. I was new and didn't know the system. Audrey patiently taught me, This register system is easy. Watch me once. Most of our members pay annually. You scan their cards and they can borrow fishing gear for free. They can also take home whatever they catch. You don't need to handle that part. I stood beside her and listened closely. The owner also ran a restaurant, so many people came for its fish dishes. They often needed private room reservations. Handling those was part of our job too. The work had many parts but wasn't too demanding. I learned quickly and caught on fast. After Audrey finished teaching me, she picked up her cup to get some water. She smiled and said, "Review the materials for a minute. I'm getting some water." I nodded obediently. "Okay, Audrey." Audrey was a master's student at Ashford University, so I'd politely addressed her as an upperclassman when we met. As Audrey turned to get water, a familiar woman's voice suddenly asked, "Who's she? Are you too close?" I quickly looked up. Avery stood at the counter in a waterproof jacket and bucket hat, holding a brand new set of fishing gear. Tessa wore a similar outfit and stood behind her, curiously looking around. My eyes lit up in delight. I quickly stood and greeted her. "Avery, you're here to fish too?" Avery smiled, nodded, and explained, "Tessa has a research project on aquaculture. I'm helping her gather material." Tessa, who had been dragged along unwillingly, widened her eyes and stared at Avery. Avery looked back without flinching. "How long will your project take? Should we get monthly, quarterly, or annual passes?" Tessa wondered why Avery was asking her. How was she supposed to know? So she asked back, "How long do you think my project should take?" Avery answered seriously, "I've thought it over. Annual passes are the best deal. Our advisor assigned one fisheries project, and there'll surely be more later. It's only $1,000 a year with unlimited visits. It's a great deal, don't you think?" Tessa casually nodded. "Sure, that makes sense. Let's get annual passes." She wasn't paying, so she didn't care. Watching them, I couldn't help feeling amused. I wondered what they were up to. Then Avery turned to me with a smile. "Ethan, could you get us 2 annual passes?" "Sure. Give me a moment and fill this out first." I slid a form over for them to complete. I wasn't very familiar with the membership process, so I moved a little slowly. Tessa showed no impatience. Instead, she kept chatting cheerfully with me. She asked about my job at the club, including the pay, benefits, and meal reimbursement. She asked so much it sounded like she wanted a job too. I patiently answered every question. Just then, Audrey noticed customers at the desk. Worried I might struggle with the memberships, she set down her cup and hurried back. Audrey stepped beside me, our shoulders nearly touching. She leaned down and quietly asked, "Are these annual memberships?" I nodded and looked up awkwardly, smiling at her. "Audrey, I'm still not sure how to use the membership system." Audrey froze for a second when our eyes met, then quickly recovered. "No problem. I'll handle it. Just watch." She naturally took the mouse from me, her slender fingers accidentally brushing my hand. Neither of us noticed the small gesture, but Avery saw everything from across the counter. Her expression instantly darkened. Her good mood vanished. Tessa whispered beside her, "Girl, you've got serious competition." Avery sighed helplessly, still scowling. She couldn't help it. Any guy who stole her heart would attract others too. After all, I was handsome, sweet, and kind. It would be stranger if no one liked me. Audrey quickly finished and handed over the 2 membership cards. "Your annual memberships are ready. Visits are unlimited for the entire year. You can come anytime without a reservation and borrow fishing gear for free. But reserved fishing spots must be booked ahead." Avery and Tessa took their cards, thanked Audrey and me, then walked away. They began looking for a good fishing spot. Audrey stood there watching them leave. Once they disappeared from sight, she turned to me and quietly asked, "Are they your classmates?" I smiled and nodded. "They're upperclassmen at Briarwood next door." Audrey raised an eyebrow in surprise. "College students fish too?" She'd worked at the club for years and knew its members inside out. Members as young as Avery and Tessa were extremely rare. They weren't unheard of, but there were very few. Sensing Audrey's confusion, I quickly explained, "They're agriculture students. The one in blue is researching fish farming. That's why they came here to gather research material." Audrey looked even more surprised. "Really? But I could have sworn. Briarwood's agriculture school has several fish farms." Her words made my eyes widen. I stared at her in disbelief and asked, "Really?" I clearly knew little about the agriculture school. Audrey, however, knew it quite well. Seeing my curiosity, she patiently explained how it worked. Audrey said the college had vast fields, where students trained and studied, and it wasn't limited to crops. It also had livestock farms, fish farms, orchards, and more. It covered nearly every area of agriculture. Then Audrey changed the subject and brought up their memberships at this small fishing club. She found it very strange. If they were studying aquaculture, this small club hardly seemed like the right place. It was small and had limited resources. Couldn't compare with Briarwood's large fish farms. Audrey couldn't help wondering, can fishing here really help their research? They might spend all day here and catch nothing. She clearly questioned their choice. Chloe didn't realize I'd moved out until the 6th day. Until then, Adrian's emotional state had consumed her attention. Adrian was close to breaking down, and Chloe feared he might do something reckless. So she took several days off and brought Adrian to the Skyline penthouse. She stayed with him for 5 days. During that time, she did her best to calm him, so he could rest and recover. But by day 6, Adrian still hadn't fully recovered. He insisted on returning to class, but Chloe remained deeply troubled. She began to realize his lasting damage might be worse than she'd thought. That night, Chloe tossed and turned in bed. She couldn't stop picturing Adrian's pale face and frail body. Her anxiety grew until she could no longer stand lying awake. She got up and, as usual, went to the gazebo by the staff house. She leaned against the railing and let the breeze wash over her. The garden was especially quiet at night. Only the leaves rustled softly in the breeze. Chloe silently stared at the closed window. The room was completely dark, reminding her of their last life. And the time she'd spent with me there. An indescribable mix of emotions filled her. Chloe checked her watch. It was after 1. She assumed I was already asleep. Chloe stood outside my window in the cold wind all night. The next morning, sunlight fell across Chloe's face. She hadn't slept, and her eyes were bloodshot. After breakfast, she slowly rose to leave for school. At the gate, Chloe seemed distracted. She kept glancing toward the staff house, as if waiting for someone. The minutes ticked by, but the familiar figure never appeared. Chloe frowned as unease crept in. I always left around this time. Why was today different? Her mind raced. Had something happened? As her anxiety grew, a black sedan pulled up. Chloe hurried over to get in. But when she saw the driver, her face darkened. It wasn't Uncle Daniel, but a stranger. Chloe frowned and asked sharply, "Why are you driving? Where's Uncle Daniel?" The new driver seemed surprised by her tone, but quickly regained his composure. He answered respectfully, "Miss Whitmore, Mr. Hayes has resigned. The butler assigned me to drive you from now on." Chloe's expression darkened. Her chest heaving, she angrily stepped out. She rushed back inside and ran into Arthur. Chloe grabbed his arm. "Arthur, where's Uncle Daniel?" Arthur froze when she suddenly grabbed him. He answered in surprise, "Oh, Mr. Hayes? He resigned yesterday. He's already left the estate." Chloe asked darkly, "Why did he quit? If he left, then wouldn't Ethan leave too?" Sure enough, before she could ask, Arthur continued, "Daniel has already moved out. He said he had matters to handle back home. Ethan moved out too. I believe he's living in the dorms. Daniel was truly a good man. Finding someone else like him won't be easy." Chloe's face grew even darker. She stood motionless like a statue, but fury filled her eyes, ready to erupt. She'd never imagined things would come to this. In their last life, I'd loved her with all my heart. I'd always stayed by her side, and Daniel had always remained the Whitmore's driver. Even after we dated for 5 years, he'd never quit. But since her rebirth, everything had changed beyond recognition. What was happening? Had her rebirth alone changed everyone and everything? What about Ethan? Would he still love her as deeply as before? The question kept circling in Chloe's mind, filling her with panic and dread. My shift at Lakeview Anglers Club lasted until 9. After a busy evening, I was a little tired. I finished my tasks and prepared to leave. The club's lights shimmered in the darkness, casting soft shadows and adding to the quiet mood. Just then, Avery returned with a fishing bucket, walking cheerfully. But Tessa, who'd gone fishing with her, was nowhere in sight. My eyes lit up when I saw Avery. I walked over, eyed her bucket, and asked curiously, "Avery, did you catch anything?" Avery smiled slightly and held the bucket out to me. I peeked inside. It was completely empty. I froze, then burst out laughing. Still laughing, I said, "Avery, how did you catch absolutely nothing?" Avery quietly watched me laugh. A tender smile appeared on her face. She lowered her head and said softly, "It was my first time. I'll do better next time." She knew she hadn't focused on fishing at all. Fishing was only an excuse. She was really here for me. Why would she care whether she caught anything? After laughing, I tilted my head and asked, "Avery, where's Tessa? Isn't she leaving with you?" Avery gently shook her head. "Tessa had something to do and left early. It's late. Have you eaten?" I instinctively shook my head. After working all evening, my stomach was already growling. But this time, I told myself, I couldn't let Avery pay again. So I said, "Avery, let me buy you dinner." Avery's first instinct was to decline. She didn't want me spending money. Then she remembered relationships needed give and take. That was how things kept moving forward. So she accepted. Then she'd have a reason to treat me next time. With that thought, she happily agreed. Avery checked her fishing gear with the club's management and prepared to leave for dinner with me. Just then, Audrey came out of a nearby room. She immediately saw Avery checking her gear. She narrowed her eyes, approached me, and quietly asked, "Ethan, is she your girlfriend?" She spoke softly, but the area was quiet enough for me to hear. I blurted, "What?" and quickly shook my head. Lowering my voice shyly, I said, "Of course not. She's just an upperclassman from Briarwood." Audrey nodded thoughtfully and smiled. "I see. I guess I misunderstood." She'd seen Avery and me walking together so comfortably, and truly thought we were a couple. Audrey's comment left me embarrassed. When Avery returned after checking her gear, I instinctively put some distance between us. We walked out about 2 feet apart. Avery quickly noticed my strange behavior. She couldn't help feeling confused. She stepped closer, trying to close the gap. But I quietly moved away again. Avery stopped and instantly knew something was wrong. I was avoiding her. To test her theory, Avery moved closer again. I quickly dodged aside once more. Avery frowned and called out, "Ethan." I jerked my head up. "Yeah? What's wrong, Avery?" We were already on the road from the club to the bus stop. The stretch was several dozen yards long. It was secluded and dim, with no bright streetlights. Insects occasionally chirped in the roadside grass, adding to the quiet, mysterious atmosphere. Avery suddenly grabbed my arm with a firm, swift motion and yanked me to the side. Before I could react, I lost my balance and fell against Avery. In that instant, I caught the faint scent coming from her. The fresh fragrance left me dazed. I froze for a moment. Once I regained my footing, I looked where she'd pulled me from. There was a deep hole directly ahead. It wasn't wide, but stepping into it could have caused a serious injury. My eyes widened with lingering fear. I looked at Avery gratefully. "Avery, thanks for saving me. God, that was close." I touched my chest as my heart pounded. Avery released my arm and warned softly, "Watch where you're going. Don't get distracted." Watching her withdraw her hand made me blush even harder. I nodded and answered in a tiny voice, "I know, Avery." Though Avery had let go, her cool touch seemed to linger on my arm. I secretly studied Avery's small hands. Her long, defined fingers looked like a work of art, impossible not to admire. Whenever I saw Avery's hands now, I remembered our fingers intertwined. I decided I needed to keep my distance from Avery. We went to a restaurant near Briarwood. We found a table and ordered. But even during one short meal, we ran into someone we knew. Brooke happened to be dining nearby with friends. She turned and spotted me eating with Avery. Surprise crossed her face. She immediately took a secret photo. Her fingers flew across the screen as she sent it to their 3-person group chat. "Chloe, your driver's son seems pretty close with Avery Sinclair. Ever since their last dinner." When Madison revealed Avery's identity, Brooke had paid special attention to her. She kept a close eye on everything Avery did. To Brooke, Avery came from an elite family, with a background equal to Chloe's. So why were her standards so low? Meanwhile, Chloe lay alone in a dark room. Heavy curtains blocked out the sunlight. The room felt suffocating, with empty bottles covering the table. Some lay scattered, while others teetered near the edge. Drunk, Chloe had collapsed on the couch, but she fell into a terrible dream. In it, she cruelly drove Ethan away for Adrian. Ethan walked away with his suitcase, looking utterly alone. As he stepped into the road, a car suddenly ran the light. It raced forward like an out-of-control beast. A deafening crash rang out, and Ethan was thrown several yards. His body slammed onto the pavement. At that moment, she stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows of her penthouse, holding Adrian and kissing him passionately. Her gaze drifted through the glass and caught the scene outside. Her eyes tightened instantly, her pupils widening in horror. She recognized the shattered suitcase as Ethan's. Chloe felt as if she'd been struck by lightning. She shoved Adrian away and raced downstairs like a madwoman. She stumbled several times and nearly fell. Everyone solemnly told her Ethan was dead, but she refused to believe it. How could that be? The man who'd always stayed beside her, the Ethan who'd cared for her every need, couldn't simply be gone. Overwhelming panic wrapped around her like an invisible net, leaving her unable to breathe. Then Chloe jolted awake. She shot upright, sweat pouring down her face. Her head felt like it was being pierced by thousands of needles. Her throat was painfully dry. Out of habit, she called hoarsely, "Ethan, water." Her voice was exhausted and helpless. She leaned against the couch with her eyes closed. For the past 5 years, whenever she was drunk or sick, I was always there first. I'd stay beside her, bring warm water, and comfort her. Since being reborn, she had initially planned to be with Adrian. She deliberately kept her distance from me. But over time, she realized she'd grown used to life with me. All those ordinary moments, every little thing I did had become part of her life. She couldn't live without me anymore. Leaning against the couch, She rubbed her aching forehead. She called again, "Ethan." Then her voice stopped as she slowly opened her eyes. A dark, stifling room lay before her. With no lights on, it felt especially oppressive. Bottles covered the table, clothes littered the couch, and everything was a mess. Without her permission, the servants didn't dare enter. It only made her world feel lonelier. She remembered spending days comforting Adrian. After finally calming him, she'd returned home completely drained. She'd hoped for a little peace, only for Victoria to question why she'd missed school. The endless problems had worn her down. Covering her face, Chloe suddenly laughed in the darkness. Her laughter was bitter and helpless. Why had everything turned out this way? She didn't understand. I'd been drugged too, yet I'd never lashed out at her. I'd asked for nothing and silently endured it all. Back then, she'd never thought she'd mistreated me. But compared with Adrian, she finally understood. A man who truly loved her wouldn't make things harder for her. And I'd always been the one who quietly gave everything out of love. Just then, her phone chimed. The sound broke the silence, and she picked it up. Brooke had posted a photo in their Orbit group. Still groggy, she opened it, and her face instantly darkened. The photo showed Avery and me laughing over dinner. A sudden rage flared inside Chloe. Why was Ethan getting so close to Avery? She gripped her phone until her knuckles turned white. Jealousy and unease surged through her. Suddenly, she realized she might truly lose Ethan. After dinner, Avery offered to walk me back to my dorm. Feeling bad, I said, "It's late, Avery. You should head home. I can walk back alone." Night had fallen, and the streets were nearly empty. I glanced at the clock. It was almost 10. Knowing she'd still have to ride home alone made me feel guilty. Avery gently shook her head. "It's dark out. I'll walk with you. I can get a ride later. I'm not in a rush." With that, she started toward Ashford. I still felt bad, but she'd already left, so I hurried to catch up. We walked side by side, chatting softly now and then. The dim streetlights stretched and shortened our shadows. Before long, we reached my dorm. Avery stopped and said softly, "We're here. Go on inside." I looked up at her gratefully. "Thanks, Avery. You went through a lot for me today." Avery waved it off and turned away. Tall, long-legged, and beautiful, she stood out even in the dark. Ever since she began walking me to the dorm, guys passing by kept looking back with curiosity and envy. Their stares made me deeply uncomfortable. My face grew even redder. At this hour outside the dorm, girls were everywhere walking their boyfriends home. Naturally, everyone assumed Avery and I were dating. But we were only two friends from neighboring schools. There was nothing more between us. I hurried inside and reached my room. The moment I opened the door, one roommate looked up from his computer. His eyes lit up and he shouted, "Ethan, your girlfriend sent you a gift. It's on your bed." I stopped in the doorway, completely stunned. I pointed at myself and asked, "What? Whose girlfriend? Mine?" I was baffled. Since when did I have a girlfriend? How did I not know about it? Another roommate came out of the bathroom, drying his hair as he walked over to my bed. He stared enviously at the beautifully wrapped blue whale plush. "Ethan, your girlfriend treats you so well. She even had a courier bring you a gift this late." Then he asked curiously, "Ethan, is your girlfriend Chloe Whitmore?" My roommates had heard about me photographing Chloe in class. Chloe was hot-tempered, arrogant, and cold to everyone. Yet she'd never gotten angry when I photographed her every day. People had even seen me getting out of her car. We'd ridden to and from school together, so people naturally wondered. I wasn't angry. I simply gave a faint smile and patiently explained, "Of course not. The pictures were a misunderstanding. Miss Whitmore and I have nothing to do with each other. Besides, she's an heiress. We live in completely different worlds." As I spoke, I walked over to my bed and gently picked up the beautifully wrapped whale plush. As I studied it, mixed emotions rose inside me. Chloe had definitely bought it. In our last life, after Chloe and I started dating, she'd given me one exactly like it. I'd been overjoyed and couldn't put it down. I treasured it by my bed and held it every night. But our relationship ultimately ended in tragedy. When Chloe heartlessly threw me out, I couldn't bear to leave behind the plush that had been with me for 5 years. At the memory, I lowered my head and looked at it again. The same blue whale, the same size, even the same brand. I couldn't help reaching out and slowly brushing my fingers over the box. My emotions tangled. My roommate Julian hurried over curiously and examined the plush's brand label. His face filled with shock as he whispered, "Ethan, this brand is insanely expensive. This thing must cost 7 figures. He was stunned by the plush's value. I glanced at Julian and slowly shook my head with a helpless look. I answered calmly, "I don't know. I never pay attention to luxury prices." The unexpected gift already had my mind in turmoil. Then I remembered something and asked Julian, "A courier delivered this, right? Did you see them?" Julian exchanged a look with Caleb, and both shook their heads. Caleb kept drying his wet hair, As he explained, "No idea. The courier left it with the dorm supervisor. When we came back, she asked us to bring it up." I nodded. "Okay, I'm going out for a minute." Holding the plush, I turned and left the room. I reached the trash cans outside and casually glanced around. Then I happened to notice a red sports car parked several dozen yards away. Its familiar model and distinctive plate instantly told me it was Chloe's. I narrowed my eyes with a mocking smile. Chloe was ridiculous. What was she trying to do? Had she taken her own words seriously and actually started pursuing me? What about Adrian? Had he already left the country? Only after Adrian left would Chloe come looking for a substitute out of spite. I gave a mocking laugh in the hazy darkness. Then, without hesitation, I took the whale plush and tossed it into the trash like it was worthless. I did it cleanly, without hesitation or regret. From her car, Chloe had seen me return. Her eyes had never left me. She'd watched Avery walk me to the dorm and leave after we spoke for a moment. Then she saw me carry her gift toward the trash. Disbelief filled Chloe's eyes as she stared at me. She watched me take the whale plush and throw it away like some disgusting piece of trash. I walked away without even looking back. Chloe felt as if she'd been punched in the heart. An unfamiliar sense of defeat overwhelmed her. "No, this can't be happening." Her lips trembled as she murmured, "Wasn't that his favorite plush?" Chloe frantically pulled out her phone and messaged me with trembling fingers. "Why did you move into the dorms? Was living at my house so bad?" She desperately needed an answer. She needed to understand why I was acting so differently. But the moment she sent it, a red exclamation mark appeared. Chloe stared at the screen, frozen. I deleted her. The fact that she wasn't even my friend hit her like a thunderbolt. She sat stunned behind the wheel for a long time. Anger, confusion, and heartbreak tangled inside her, leaving her completely distraught. After Victoria drugged Adrian, Chloe rarely returned to Whitmore Estate. She'd only gone back because she wanted to see me. She didn't understand why she kept seeking me out. But after 5 years together, she'd grown used to my care. Those 5 years had made her subconsciously see me as hers. She was used to controlling everything about me. Now I was beyond her control. That deeply frustrated her. In their last life, Chloe suffered severe migraines. Whenever one struck, the piercing pain felt like a sharp spike twisting inside her skull. It was unbearable. Fortunately, I used to carefully blend an incense for her. When it was lit, thin smoke filled the room with its distinctive scent. The aroma would quickly lull Chloe into a deep sleep. Miraculously, she'd wake up with the migraine gone. Now that she'd been reborn, her migraines weren't yet as severe as before. But recent troubles had kept her awake at night, and Adrian's situation left her anxious all day. Her migraines were beginning to return. Chloe frowned, searching deep in her memory for the name of the incense I'd made. After a moment, she wrote it down and sent it to Arthur. She ordered him to find a perfumer and recreate it as soon as possible. After sending the message, she got out and returned to the home she shared with Adrian. Adrian had already moved in and was living with Chloe at the spacious skyline penthouse. The moment Chloe opened the door, Adrian, who was absorbed in a photo, heard her enter. He panicked like he'd been caught doing something wrong and hurriedly locked his phone. Then he stood, forced a smile and said, "Chloe, you're home." Too agitated, Chloe didn't notice his suspicious behavior. She nodded gravely and asked in a low voice, "Why are you still awake this late?" The hands on the wall clock were nearing midnight. Beyond the massive floor-to-ceiling windows, the road was silent and empty. Even passing cars were rare. The whole world seemed asleep, leaving the empty road stretching beneath dim streetlights. Chloe stared at the road outside, her thoughts drifting back to their last life. That was the road where a speeding car had struck me. A doubt stirred inside her. The road was usually quiet. How could it be such a coincidence that an out-of-control car appeared the moment I crossed? Chloe walked somberly to the window and leaned forward, staring down at the road. Seeing her like this made Adrian uneasy. He wondered what was wrong now. He quietly walked over and wrapped his arms around her waist. In a soft, wounded voice, he said, "Chloe, you've been upset lately. Is it because of me? I'm sorry. I never wanted this." Chloe looked away from the road as her headache intensified. It felt like an invisible hand crushing her skull. She instinctively held Adrian tighter and said softly, "It's not your fault, Adrian. It's mine. I failed to protect you." Yet as she spoke, her gaze drifted back to the road. The piercing screech of brakes echoed uncontrollably in her mind, along with the crash that shattered the suitcase. She still remembered the blue whale plush's tail sticking out of the wreckage. That plush had once been Ethan's treasure. Even when they broke up before, Ethan took nothing except that plush. So why had he thrown it away without hesitation this time? "Chloe? Chloe?" Seeing her lost in thought again, Adrian called softly. Chloe snapped out of it and looked down at him. "What is it?" Adrian studied her face with concern and smiled gently. It's late. Go shower, then get some rest. You have school tomorrow. Chloe silently nodded. She released him and headed to the bathroom. Adrian sat back down on the couch. He took out his phone again and opened a private album. A photo appeared. It was taken at an international summer camp in middle school, with a girl from his group. She had a bright smile, clear eyes, and youthful energy. After all these years, he'd carefully kept the photo, never able to delete it. Adrian gently traced the photo with his finger, as if touching a beautiful, distant memory. Suddenly, darkness flashed in his eyes. He remembered what Victoria had done to him, and instinctively touched his stomach. The warmth in his gaze instantly turned vicious. A few days later, Mason and I were having lunch in the cafeteria. As Mason ate happily, he seemed to suddenly remember something and said, "Oh, Ethan, our class is doing a group outing with the agriculture school in a few days. Want to come?" Mason's eyes shone with anticipation. My chopsticks paused. I frowned in confusion, unable to understand why our arts program would hold an outing with the agriculture school. I took a sip of soup, ate some noodles, and asked Mason, "Why are we suddenly doing an outing with them? Is it just Briarwood's agriculture school? No other schools?" Adrian's Harbor Institute of Technology was close to Ashford. I didn't want to see Adrian or Chloe. If it became a multi-school event, my chances of running into them would rise sharply. Mason shook his head with a smile. "Here's what you don't know. An upperclassman from their agriculture school is pursuing a guy in our class. She organized the whole outing." Mason's voice buzzed with excitement over the gossip. My eyes widened in surprise. Our class agreed that easily. No one objected. I assumed an outing across two schools would draw plenty of objections. Mason waved dismissively. "Why object? Everyone's rushing to sign up." Mason swiped through his phone, opened a photo, and eagerly held the screen in front of me. "Well, she's gorgeous, right?" I looked closely, and my eyes widened. "Wait, isn't that Avery?" The beautiful woman in the photo was Avery. I recognized her instantly. Mason instantly perked up. "Ethan, you know Avery Sinclair?" Then Mason continued, "Well, that makes sense. Avery is a famous content creator. She has nearly 10 million followers. Of course you know her." I stared at Mason in shock. I never imagined Avery had another identity like that. Avery was a creator with millions of followers? I saw her constantly, yet I'd never noticed. Unable to contain my curiosity, I pulled out my phone and asked, "What's her username? Which platform?" Mason smiled. "She's on every platform. Just search her name. Her username is Avery Sinclair. She never changed it." Then Mason lowered his voice mysteriously. "Everyone wants to join because Avery's coming. All the guys are thrilled and fighting for spots. They want to see Briarwood's campus beauty and find out what a creator with 10 million followers looks like in person. I already signed you up. You have to come with me. I'll be lonely by myself." Mason tugged my sleeve with a pleading look. As I searched for Avery's account, I nodded without thinking. "Okay, we'll go together." I didn't like hiking and knew my stamina was poor. Climbing a mountain was exhausting for me. But the moment I heard Avery was going, I decided to join without a second thought. I quickly found Avery's account. When I opened it, most of her content showed daily life as an agriculture student. She sometimes explained plants and insects. Beyond her schoolwork, she mostly taught people how to grow flowers and vegetables. In her videos, Avery stood in vibrant fields wearing a sun hat, seriously teaching viewers about plants and insects. But among the tens of thousands of comments, half the viewers didn't seem to care what she was saying. They left shameless remarks as I casually scrolled. The comments made me laugh. I wondered how a sweet, serious student like Avery felt when she read them. She was probably deeply embarrassed. A faint smile tugged at my lips. Then I sent Avery a screenshot of her account with a cute sticker. "Avery, I found you." Avery replied almost immediately. "How did you find out about my account?" Seeing my message made Avery instantly self-conscious. She'd created the account right after starting college, when her parents cut her off for choosing agriculture. She'd hoped to earn some money online, to cover her expenses. To grow the account quickly, she followed her friend's advice and wore revealing outfits. Sometimes she wore the schoolgirl-style miniskirts guys liked. For every video, she carefully chose her most flattering angles. She even filmed close-ups of her elegant hands. That made many of her followers especially bold. They flirted shamelessly with her in the comments every day. She cringed at the thought that I'd seen her trying so hard online. Those shameless comments made it even more embarrassing. She quickly typed back, desperate to save face with me. I had no idea how to run an account. I just followed other people's advice. They even picked my outfits and poses. I really had no clue. She stressed no clue twice, desperate to protect her image. She wanted me to keep seeing her as the same sweet, respectable upperclassman. In reality, she'd been running the whole account herself from day one. She chose every outfit and every agriculture topic. She even planned each video outline and hand gesture. Every detail had been carefully designed by her. After sending the message, Avery dropped her phone and covered her face. Felt like the world was ending. Before she had someone to impress, she hadn't cared. She'd interacted with fans online without holding back. She'd even fired back in the comments. Now that she had a crush, everything felt different. This was the most mortifying moment of her life. Meanwhile, Tessa had just finished weeding the peanut field. She straightened up and wiped the sweat from her forehead. Seeing Avery looking miserable, she asked with concern, "Seven, what's wrong? What happened?" Avery tugged at her hair, looking conflicted, and said, "It's kind of complicated." Tessa kept weeding and said casually, "Then keep it simple." Avery frowned. "It's kind of like, you secretly run a thirst trap stream, then your crush finds it. Then they screenshot it and tell you how amazing it is." Avery was actually a serious educational creator, not a thirst trap influencer, but her fans were way too thirsty. She had no idea what Ethan would think of those comments. She was regretting everything. Tessa's hands froze as she stared at Avery in shock. After a long pause, Tessa stammered, "Seven, who knew you had a side hustle like that? What's your handle? I'll follow you." Tessa actually pulled out her phone. Avery's face turned red with anger.